All right, it is 6 o'clock, and we're going to call this first meeting of Judiciary and Public Safety Committee to order. Supervisor Loam will be here. However, we do have enough membership for a quorum. So we're going to begin. The first order of business is to approve the minutes of the April 11th, 2022 meeting. If I can get a motion. So moved. Second. Okay. Any discussion on that? No. Okay. All in favor? Say aye. 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 All opposed, say nay. Okay, next on the agenda is public comments on the specific agenda items. Is there anyone in the public who would like to speak on any of the items that are currently on the agenda? Please come forward. Please give your name and your address.
All right, my name is John Jorgensen. I live on Chatham Drive in Oshkosh, Wisconsin. And so I am truly a member of the public, but I'm also a circuit court judge here in Winnebago County. And I'm not on the agenda because I'm not a leader of any department. So it is commenting in general about your first meetings here. And I just want to introduce myself and to tell you that the judges try to attend these meetings for many reasons. Number one, just to get, so we get to know you and you get to know us. As you know, we're the third branch of government and we're state employees. So, you know, you have limited impact on us, but you have a huge impact, of course, on our personnel, our courtrooms, the courthouse. And so what we've found in the past is when we want something from you guys and you don't know us and we don't know you and there's not a level of trust or relationship, you're seeing us for the first time and, you know, we don't know each other. So one of our goals was, well, maybe we should start attending these meetings so that you can know us, we can know you. And what we found is we're learning things from, you know, other department heads that we may have not known. But we've also have found that you know, you have had questions of us of, you know, things that you're considering, and then we're here, you know, to answer if you had any questions. So I just want to tell you that hopefully you'll be seeing a judge every meeting here, and it's not to watch you, it's to be involved and be available to see if you have any questions for us or anything that we can learn from you. So like I said, you have limited impact, but you do have a huge impact on our programs, on our working space, on our personnel. And you know, I did just want to make one last comment, which I really would like to commend this committee and the county board in general. About 10 years ago, you guys committed to stay in the courthouse downtown. There was a debate about whether we build a new one or rehab the old one, and you committed to staying in the downtown one, which most of us were thrilled with. It's a beautiful courthouse, nice courtrooms, nice hallways, everything. But above and beyond that, you committed the resources to do that. And with Mike Elder and his budget and all the work you guys have done with renovation and painting and, you know, everything. I think you've done everything, Mike, right? Yes. We're very happy there, and you guys have really taken care of us, and we're happy to be in that old historic courthouse. That's all I got.
Thank you. Thank you. Anyone else in the room here or on Zoom? Okay, with that, we're going to close that section and move on to communications shared by committee members. Before I open it up to the members, just two comments I'd like to make. There was a little bit of confusion on emergency management and how we structure that. Previously, we would have a subcommittee or another committee that would report up through JPS focused on emergency management. However, with the last organizational meeting, it was approved to eliminate emergency management as a standing committee meeting, and that it would just be rolled as part of JPS. So the plan is going forward that we would have emergency management as a part of this body here, and we would have discussion and entertain any sort of conversation within this group of people. I've also had an opportunity to speak with Eric on that as well, and believe that from a department point of view, that also works. So with that, that's the plan at this point going forward. I will say, though, that it's important to me that we don't lose any of that great work that was done at that committee level. So I do want to make sure that as we progress and figure out this transition, especially, that we make sure that we still address those topics and they are up front of mind. That's critical that we continue that great work of that department, and it's not overlooked as we go down the path. So with that, were there any other comments or communications that the members would like to share?
Well, I would have a point of order.
Okay.
In consideration, I see that we're going to give department representatives an opportunity to introduce themselves and their mission to share with us. And on our agenda, we have a number of items that have no relation to the department heads. And I would like to suggest, as a courtesy to the department heads, if we could move item 8, 9, and 10 to after item 14, that would free those department heads and representatives from having to sit through the debate on those issues and complete the work and the items on the agenda that relate to their work.
Yes, I'm sorry. Thank you for that oversight. Thank you very much, Supervisor Eisen. So yes, so we will absolutely, and I want to make sure that I'm capturing what you're saying as well.
Well, I can make a motion to adjust the agenda.
All right, go for it.
So that I'd like to move to adjust the agenda so that items 8, 9, and 10 are discussed after item 14.
Any discussion on that? All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
All against, say nay. All right, that's passed.
I'll share something too. The National Counties Association and the Wisconsin Counties Association also have a Judiciary Public Safety Committee as well. And for those who are interested, and not just this committee, but other committees for the National Counties Association and Wisconsin Counties Association, if they're interested, they are taking applications. Anyone who is interested can apply. I just received correspondence this morning on it today. So if you are interested, just go ahead and apply online. If you can go to the website and it's simply NACO.org or the Wisconsin Counties Association. You could just do a search there and find them there. So that's all I have regarding that.
Great. Do you have anything for the committee? Supervisor Hanson? Okay. All right, we're going to close that section. Okay, next is consideration with a vote on a revised capital project request, revised cost of $1,830,080 Share evidence, oh, I'm sorry, wrong one, sorry. A consideration vote capital project and budget transfer request of $1,068,427 to design and construct residential housing for released 980 offenders, and I believe that's Mike Elder.
Mike Elder and Mary Ann Miller.
Right.
I'm here to support Mary Ann. It's really a project that is the responsibility of the corporate council to find a place for these 980 offenders to reside. And I've been involved with her for the last, I think now going on 3 years, where we have to find residential places for the 980 offenders. And we have not had any luck finding an existing residence or finding a contractor who would be willing to provide a residential facility for the residents. And that kind of leaves us in the lurch because when they first passed the law, we had 180 days from our notification to find a residence for them. Now that it's been going on 3 years since the law has been passed, that window has been shrunk down to 120 days. So you all had a pretty lengthy presentation in the informational meeting at the beginning of May on what 980 is for the responsibilities for the county and what our plans are for. And this is now bringing forward the request for funding for us to create a residential facility on county property that is within the parameters of the law over on Highway Y. And what we are asking for is approval of the project, approval of the funding. We brought it before the Facilities Committee in April, and they approved it for voted yes. Bill Wingren abstained because he wanted it to come before the Judiciary Committee, and he was, I don't know if he was thinking he would be still on the committee and he could vote for it. But that's the way the vote was, 401. And what we would be doing is this would give us funding to start working on the design and firming up how we want to do it. The ideas were that we would create up to 6, if you want to call them studio, single bedroom residences that would be used for the 980 offenders. We're going with single ones because we've run into problems where there's a compatibility issue with some of the offenders that we may have issues putting them in as roommates. And if we put all of our eggs in the fact that, well, they'll be roommates, then we would be back to not having a place to put them. There's also, I brought up with the committee that when we built Parkview, one of the reasons why we went to single occupancy rooms there was because we would have a bed available, but it was the wrong gender. And we don't really know who we have in the pipeline that are 980s that are going to be released to us. And there could be a potential that there is a gender conflict in the future. So we want to have that taken care of. The whole process is kind of a new thing. Actually, 3 years ago, we were on the bleeding edge. We were one of the first counties that had the 980 releases and had this problem. Since that time, and I think they probably brought up in early May, other counties have done it, and they've actually modeled their solution to the problem the same as us. Door County has put 2 trailers on their public works site. A couple other counties have either started or have put trailers on their property. Racine County wasn't really going to do anything, and the Judiciary there ordered them to build a facility. So right now, we are once again kind of leading the charge because now we have 2 more individuals coming out that we're responsible to find a place for. We chose this to kind of be proactive so that we're ready for it and we don't have the crunch that we had 3 years ago. 3 years ago, building a trailer there was just under $200,000. And part of the process when we got that approved by the city of Oshkosh was that we would not build a trailer park there. They wanted something, if it would expand, to be something that would be a little bit more permanent, a little bit more professional looking, if you want to say it. I don't know what you call it. And that's where, we came back to these tiny homes. We have to work with the city and find out how we're going to make this work. When we did the trailer 3 years ago, they were amenable to, if we had to have additional facilities or spaces there, we would address it when the time came. That's now. When we built it, the city wanted us or encouraged us, told us we would have to put in a holding tank. One of the major costs with this project is we're figuring that with having 6 of them there, they will have a desire for us to connect to the city sewer. And the city sewer is right out there on Jackson Street. So that's about 1,000 feet that we have to run a sewer. That is roughly $168,000 out of this project. If during the whole discussions with the city, we can come to a mutual understanding that we can do holding tanks again, that cost would be greatly reduced. One of the things that we would do is, in the future, if we don't have 980s, these could then be used for ordinary sex offenders. I know not anybody really wants a sex offender living in their neighborhood. And it would be something that we could lease out to them with the understanding that if we needed it for a 980, we would probably terminate the lease at the end of their lease and have them find someplace else to go. And that's pretty much it in a nutshell. What we're looking for is approval of project, approval of the funding so that we can start the design work to start building a facility for the 980s. I guess I'll answer any questions that I can for you.
I got one.
Sure.
Like if in regards to the number of units, do you foresee any sort of possibility where we would have to move from 6 to maybe 8 or 10 or 12?
We in talking with the sheriff, talking with Mary Ann, and talking with the state, we think right now up to the 6 is what we could see needing in the foreseeable future. The way we've got the site laid out, we could probably add a couple more. If it came down to that, we could sell the trailer and move to the west. That way add some more units. But we're really hoping that we don't need to have more than 6 at one time. Thank you.
At what point will we address the zoning issue with the city of Oshkosh? Because if we don't have the zoning, we don't have anything.
We do have the zoning. It is zoned institutional. So we did not have, when we put the trailer there, we didn't have to rezone it at all. All we had to do was subdivide the property because we didn't want more. On the parcel that we've got, throughout the county, when we have multiple departments on a parcel, we don't subdivide it to each department. So the parcel that we put the trailer on actually was a part of where the transfer station is, where the jail is, and where the highway shop is. So it is a huge parcel. And what they felt was that would put too many uses or buildings on the one parcel, and we subdivided it out to a single family residence sized parcel so that it met their needs. But the zoning for the entire parcel is institutional.
Well, I had always been under the understanding that that project would not have gone forward without the zoning approval from the city of Oshkosh.
It would not go forward without them approving us subdividing the property. Okay. If we had not subdivided out that property, it would not, they wouldn't approve us putting the trailer on the entire parcel. But the entire parcel is zoned institutional.
But the use that we choose to make of it requires no approval or assent from the city.
It requires a conditional use permit. And it would probably require us to subdivide out a property that would be big enough to have all the units. We wouldn't be able to put just 6 units on the parcel the way it is right now. We would still have to subdivide out probably a half acre or 3/4 of an acre so that we would have enough space for the units. And then we would also have to have the city approve the site layout, the parking and the access to the highway water.
Thank you.
Okay, just to follow up on Supervisor Eisen's comment, 2 things. I think this is really interesting thought. So when we move, I understand that's where we are currently with the trailer, but once we move to an apartment kind of structure, the zoning doesn't have to change from
Because it's-
institutional?
It's institutional, right? Because we are the county
Okay,
and we're using it as a county function of providing a place for these people to live. It would fall under the institutional zoning requirements.
okay. And for the pieces that we do have to go to the city for,
Mhm.
what's the feeling on timing with that?
That I don't know. Yeah. It took us probably about a month and a half to 2 months the last time. So I'm thinking it would be about that amount of time because we'd have to go before the planning and zoning committee and then before the city council.
And do we feel like there are any potential issues that would derail this project as we go through with the city of Oshkosh? Have we had any preliminary conversations?
We've not really delved into it too much because generally when I talk to the city, they kind of want to know more of what we're going to do. They don't get into discussing things with me unless we have a plan, because then they have some specifics to say, this is what we agree with, or this is what we have a problem with.
Mr. Chair, we did workshop it with the planning commission last fall.
Yeah.
So typically, the city of Oshkosh, we go to the development department. They put it on for a workshop. Went through that process. We got feedback, which is why in your packet, I don't know, Mike, did you put in all the variations in their packet?
No.
Just the 6 is in their packet?
Oh, just this.
Yeah, so there were multiple options that the planning commission saw in their workshop. There was no issues there, and administration supports it. So we are on a track to get this done through the normal process. The county has some more rights than normal, and the planning commission, to Mike's point, without county board approval, they're not going to agenda it, because why would they waste their time if it's not an approved project? So
Understand.
that's the step we're at.
Right, understand completely. Though sometimes as you start processes like this, you have a feeling for where we're headed. I want to make sure that we understand if there are any potential roadblocks, we understand those up front versus being surprised down the
I
road.
think there's 1 new member of the plan commission and no new members of the council.
Okay.
And the general feeling is, between Mary Ann and myself and everything, I think everything is okay with the city. But you never know if some of their constituents have contacted them, that all of a sudden they may come up with some concerns.
Okay.
But our feelings are right now, they understand what we want to do. They understand the idea, and they like the idea that it's not in somebody's neighborhood.
Okay. When will we have a better idea on the cost reductions relative to the holding tanks? When will we understand that through the process?
Once we start doing the design process, we'll be able to show the city more of what we want to do. Right now, all we did was we had two architects take a look at it. One of the things that we had one architect look at was, can we design these such that we can adapt them to a future use? If we don't rent them out to other sex offenders, if we have no 980s, what can we use them for? And so, you know, he came up with a plan that we can modify a wall and put overhead doors in there, create like a business incubator, or use it for some kind of uses within the county that I don't foresee right now, but you never know. Something can come up that, you know, highways or veterans or human services or somebody else may have an idea on how we can use those. So we've got one idea that's variable, and then another architect came up with a different idea of just more of a standard one bedroom studio apartment. So once if we get the approval of you all and I get some funding, then we'll get an architect on board, and then we'll start looking at more of a detailed look on what we're going to do so that we have more information on how we can do things. I've got some ideas on how to do things that I'm hoping I can get some professional help with me, that maybe we can make an argument to the city that would reduce some of the costs.
And assuming that this goes forward to the board, will you, that amount of work to figure out, you know, maybe we could save this or that, would we be in a position to comment on that within the next few months? Or is that something that's longer term in scope? Because I do know, as you probably can appreciate, that cost will be a conversation point
Oh, definitely.
at the board level.
I would presume that we'd be coming back to you with a more finalized look on what we are doing.
And speaking of the presentation that was given to the board on this, that would have been like a month ago, right?
Yeah.
Have you gone back and thought about any of the comments from the board in consideration of this proposal? So as I think about it, I believe it was Supervisor Gabbard had some thoughts on, you know, the point was she supports it, but feels like we can maybe bring down the cost a little bit, that some of these items maybe are a little over-engineered, is what she said, or something to that effect. Are there any, have we thought about ways to further reduce this price tag at all since that presentation?
Unfortunately, I wasn't at that presentation.
Oh, okay.
And I don't know what was discussed and what those things were. But I would say that would be something that, you know, if Mary Ann has those, we'll bring them up when we have the consultant on board and say, you know, how does this affect what we came up with?
I think the short answer, Mike's direction from the county executive is we will do what we can with $1 million. So if we can't build out 6 units right now, build up 3 or 2 or whatever, the county executive is committed to keeping this at $1 million, number one. Number two, there were some concerns about size and the way the layout was. One of the issues is if you build it too small, and what we're going to have to look at is ADA compliance. Many of these people who are coming out are well over the age of, they're over 50, which I wouldn't consider necessarily old. However, they are somewhat infirm, and we're dealing with that in one of the cases where I don't know if he's ambulatory. So, and they have cognitive and other disabilities that require different equipment and things to be in the unit. So if the county board were to decide to get in the design of this, engineering too small, it is completely plausible that you've decided to make something too small that we can't use because of the medical needs of the individual. So short answer is the county, I know this has happened, and Mike maybe is too nice to say it to you. The county executive has told Mike $1 million. Well, $1,068,000. So or less.
Well, and that's what I'm getting at, or less, right?
Yeah.
And I think about the work that was done with the aviation. That wouldn't, you know, we actually think we were a couple $1 million short or shy of what the budget was. So I want to make sure that we're aware and sensitive to the fact that where we can reduce pricing, we're going to use for it.
Yes.
Right?
Yes.
And in relation to the airport terminal, that difference in what the estimate was and what the cost was the result of a bid. Both the architect and I have no idea how they came in that low. But, you know, I worked in private industry, and it depends on your business and what you're doing as to what you're going to bid. And sometimes you put in a bid and then you realize you missed something and you still live with that cost.
Thank you. Supervisor?
Just some of my questions were answered. How many 980s are in Winnebago right now? And you said you're not quite familiar with any in the pipeline right now.
We have got,
My concern is when you just went down to, maybe 3 units per million. My gosh, if we're aware of anything in the pipeline, it's far cheaper to build 6 in the short run. And
we have made numerous requests to the state, Department of Corrections or Department of Human Services, who actually manages Sandridge, to try and find out how many of our residents are actually in the pipeline. We have not gotten an answer. We get relatively surprised when they come to us. So I can't tell you how many. And the other thing is
is it a privacy issue that they're not getting back to you? Why would I don't understand why that would
I don't
be
know.
detailed or not answered right away.
We have the same question for that.
Yeah, there's a number of reasons for that. I think we think there's 8 in Sandridge right now that could come out or could petition for release. We have 1 petitioning now, we have 2 petitioning now. One is the one that was going to go to Rushford that we're well over the 120 days. One just petitioned, I think officially recently, and the clock is ticking till August sometime. And we suspect through a tip from the special prosecutor that perhaps somebody will petition. And then that leaves, we think, somewhere around 5 left in Sandridge. The difficulty is we could have folks still serving sentences in the prison system that haven't been adjudicated as a 980 participant. The other thing that can happen is they can petition for outright release from Sandridge and complete the 980 program from Sandridge and never come to a supervised release site. So we're not trying to be coy or anything like that, but we reasonably suspect that there's roughly 6 to 8 that will need to have placement soon or could petition soon. The other thing that happens is they do get discharged from the 980 program during supervised release. We've had since 2018 2 such discharges. So there is some turnover. They don't live there until the end of their life under supervised release. And then they go out into the community. Chief is 1 in Michigan. Yeah, so 1 from Wolf River is in Michigan with his brother. And that's kind of the cycle. So we don't anticipate much more than 7. At one time, certainly.
And it's kind of hard because one of the individuals had an original sentence of 5 years, and then he spent the next 23 years in Sandridge. So, it's like we might know of somebody that, let's say, is in Waupun serving his initial sentence or their initial sentence. If they get released to Sandridge, they may not become an issue for us for 20 years. So it's, the state's probably not, they don't really have a good answer for us. They may know how many people are in the prisons of it, but I don't think they're designated a 980 until their initial sentence is up and they're reviewed. So it's a very hard thing for anybody to pin down, other than we have 120 days to find them a home. That's the definite part of the equation.
I just do want to commend the county overall and this very difficult problem and finding a resolution to it, because I became a supervisor not too long before the state passed this. And it dropped into our lap. In fact, it was like one of the very first things that Mary Ann Mueller had to face the moment she became corporation counsel. And so this was, we had to act fast, and we had to find a way to resolve this issue. And I think the location is perfect. I think that, we're solving the problem appropriately. And I think that everyone has made a lot of considerations and looked at all the multitude of factors here to figure out the best way to solve this. And honestly, when you look at the cost of $1,068,000, I think everyone in the county would gladly pay that if it meant that these 980 sex offenders are not in their neighborhood, and is not just not in their neighborhood, but also close to here. I think that's just fantastic. So I just want to say that we're doing a great job in resolving this, and I'm looking forward to just moving forward with this and start on it as soon as possible.
Thank you. Yes. Question for the sheriff's department, if that's possible. In terms of, let's say we may have some extra space at a given time, some like 6 units, and only 2 of them are occupied at a given time. In my district, there are a number of sex offenders that are in the town motel. Could we possibly move some of those over to this facility, some of the more for 14 years once they're out? How does that process work, and is that even doable?
I'm going to defer to Captain Todd Christie. He actually is, he works with the offender release program. He does all the notifications, and when we get a notification of a sexual assault offender being released, he actually coordinates the community outreach along with if it meets the requirements. So the podium's yours.
So the answer to that, again, not to be coy, is probably not. Because and it all focuses on the 980s. So the 980s have been deemed through civil commitment as sexually violent offenders. The 980s that you're talking about that live amongst us in our neighborhoods where the county doesn't have to find housing for them, they are a lifetime registrant, but they have completed their entire sentence. So they are basically considered to be free, but they're a lifetime registrant as sex offender, and many of them are probably wearing ankle monitor while they're finishing their probationary period type of things that they're placed on upon release from prison. The 980s, one of the problems you have is if you build a facility, as is being discussed, is they wouldn't, I'm assuming they wouldn't want to take those offenders and mix them, because you're kind of talking patient versus non-patient. And I think that would create a problem where then, and Mr. Elder knows because he's on the committees and speaks with the state regarding the 980s much more. They're pretty touchy about the 980s, and they got the 1,500 feet around no daycare, this and that. And I just don't see that as necessarily being something that would be really excited about.
The short answer is, the other thing is we can't force those sex offenders anywhere.
Right.
That's probably the biggest issue, right?
They're private citizens.
They're private citizens.
They're private citizens who are monitored by the state. The state gives me, or the whatever jurisdiction, notification they're being released into the communities. And then we decide based on if they're a level 1, a level 2, or level 3 notification, how the community members in that area are notified. And sometimes it'll be, we'll distribute flyers into the neighborhood. Sometimes it's just on our website or on our Twitter, that type of thing. And other times it's just it's not a level 1 notification.
Thanks.
Yeah, I'm very comfortable with the discussion and explanation, and I would move to approve this item.
I'll second that.
Okay. I'm going to ask for the order. Do I have to ask for discussion since Is that's the typical?
I'll let you ask for a second for the.
Okay, thank you.
And then.
I'd rather do the Robert's rules, as you can see.
Then you can ask if there's any other final.
Okay.
deliberation.
All right, thank you very much. Okay, with that, we have actually a second. Okay, any additional discussion on this? Okay, then, with that, all in favor, please say aye.
I,
Aye, all opposed, say nay. Okay, it passes.
And then I would just ask, was the budget transfer form submitted along with the packet?
It was, I believe it was.
You just need to
Yes.
sign that.
Okay.
And then
Over here.
on to.
Just give it to me, Brian, or Mike's here.
I have the,
Mike will have you sign it.
Okay. Wait a second.
Oh,
Like he's coming up. Oh, no.
there.
Oh.
Where you're supposed to sign, so you sign where you're supposed to sign.
Is that okay?
That's fine.
All right. That's fine. We can make it work.
It'll work.
Okay, great. Thank you. Okay, next item is consideration with a vote, revised capital project request, sheriff evidence storage corner north building. And this is Mike Elder as well.
Me again.
Back up.
You guys are gonna get sick of seeing me. In the capital project, the CIP program, last year, a project got approved for building a cold storage building for the sheriff, and we started working on that. In the meantime, we had some social events that happened that made it very clear to us that we needed to have a morgue facility built. And that was back about, and I'll have Cheryl come up here and help me.
In that note, I know there was electronic document. By any chance, was this printed?
Yes, it was.
Okay, great. I just know that I'm looking around, everyone's looking in their papers, I think, to find that, so.
I wasn't sure if you all got a copy of it, so I just want to make sure I've got the right one. So we started working on it, and we had kind of a schematic plan done for the sheriff. Then we had the societal events happen, and what basically happened, I think it was around Thanksgiving, wasn't it? That we had a number of deaths in the county. And because of the pandemic, because of the number of deaths naturally occurring, and because of our situation, there was very little place to put any of, I don't know how you say, the decedents. So we ended up having to borrow a morgue trailer from a fellow county and have the trailer put here, connected to the building systems, and then we put them into the trailer. So Cheryl can do her due diligence with it. In the meantime, while we thought we had the problem taken care of, there was a massive accident in what, Wood County? Jackson County. And the trailer was recalled. So Cheryl was left scrambling for a place to place the decedents. Some of the decedents, because of the nature of their death, were classified as evidence, which means, there's a chain of custody and everything that you have to worry about. And it put the county in, I guess I call it a bind, because we don't have the space for it. An interesting thing was when we first built this building, part of the design was to have the coroner out here and have facilities for the individual at the time. A decision above my pay grade said that that wasn't going to happen. So the coroner stayed downtown in the King building. We didn't have any facilities for the coroner, and we survived that way for the last 20 years. This project now is to take the capital project that we had approved and expand it to the point that we can provide space for the sheriff to have his cold storage, and then build on an additional area for the coroner to have coroner's offices, to have a place to keep the decedents until they can be released to their families, or to the process to put them where they're going to rest for the rest of the eternity. A place for the coroner to do what she needs to do to gather evidence or investigations. And have it all in one project, and it would be located out back, kind of away from the view towards the back of the parcel here. We've got room for it. We've got a footprint showing where it would be, and not infringing upon areas that we had reserved for any expansion in the future for the jail. We've done a schematic drawing with some rough numbers for it, and that's what we came up with now, that the total is like $1.5 million. And so we're asking the committee to review it and hopefully approve it. It's gone through facilities, and it was approved 5-0. And what? Oh, it did? I thought I abstained on the last. Okay. That's where we are right now. Once again, this expands the project, so I need the funding to go back and start expanding the design work so that we can get a better estimate on what the cost will be and come up with bid documents that we can go forward and bid it and build it. I'll allow Cheryl maybe to speak a little bit on it, and we'll answer your questions.
Before the issue that we had that started Thanksgiving, which was quite a bit more overdoses, is what we were dealing with, drug overdoses. At the beginning of the pandemic is when our concerns really started. And we had always relied heavily on funeral homes to do removals for us. Those where families weren't, available or were unwilling, to do the removals and then store that decedent. Once the pandemic started, the funeral homes were getting overwhelmed, and they were looking to us for a solution to help them. All three of our major hospitals, each one of them only has a capacity for 2 decedents, and they also look to us to either help them out or to assist them in trying to get a funeral home, set up. It would make that easier for them if they had that fallback for us to be able to help them out. One of the issues that we're running into as well is the mobile morgue trailer that we're still utilizing. We have been since November. Clark County is looking to get that back. They've been looking to get it back for over a month now, possibly even longer. They've been kind enough to just keep extending. Our only option that we have right now that we found that's viable is our livery service that we use to transport. Is in the process of putting in coolers in a building across from where their business is from, which will be a good temporary solution, but along with that is going to come a storage fee cost of not more than $50 per day. Our autopsies are getting scheduled out. I had a case on Monday, and that autopsy is not scheduled until Monday, the 23rd. So we'd be looking at 7 days of storage fees, plus a $225 transportation fee from the scene to their facility, the storage fee, and then an additional $225 for them to transport from their storage down to Fond du Lac for the autopsy. If we have no family that's willing to step forward, now we have another $225 transportation fee, and where do they go? They're gonna have to go back to that facility at another storage fee until we can, properly get disposition. So it's adding up quickly with or will be at that point. Hopefully that will start soon. With the addition of building the morgue as well, we do have a Ford Explorer that we should be able to convert to be able to do our own transports as well. So they would get transported from the scene back to our own facility, which would alleviate that storage fee because we already have, we would, alleviate the transportation fees, which because of the situation, the way it is right now, our transportation is we're getting hit double. So, to the trailer and then to, the ME's office for autopsy. There's a lot of fees that are adding up and that are only going to get greater by not having storage. With the addition of the morgue, we're looking to add and it's included in that, an exam room, which would be 17 foot by 17 foot. We would be able to better do our examinations versus on the scene. Sometimes we're outside. Monday night, I was drawing toxicology on scene. That's not always the best way, to go about. It's not a proper procedure. So we would be able to do that. In return, we would also be able to allow our tissue and eye, centers that we work with, they would be able to utilize that exam room for their recoveries, which would create revenue for the county then for the use of that room. Right now, what we're doing is if family agrees and they're eligible, we will have them transported to Theta or Mercy, and then both of those hospitals gets that revenue for providing that room while we get to pay for the transportation. So, which I'm working out right now, that shouldn't be, but there's a great need for it. It would alleviate, some of the costs that we have now associated, along with creating possible revenue.
Yes, Frank.
Nuts and bolts on this. In regards to like the design of the building, what are your thoughts on like the roof? Were you considering like a metal roof, something that's just regular shingled roof?
It would be probably, they call it low slope roof. It would probably be a fully adhered rubber membrane.
Okay.
That's basically what we've got on most of the buildings. This building is a little bit different. It's got a built-up roof, which is like putting an asphalt road up on your roof. This one, it would be less expensive to do the fully adhered rubber membrane.
Okay. What's the life on that?
You can get 20 or 30 years out of them.
20 or 30 years. Okay.
Yeah.
Okay. Obviously, we want to make sure that we're building something that will last a long time, and so that we're not faced with a very big renovation bill 20 or 30 years from now. So as long as you think, as long as you feel that that's the most cost effective, so you think that just this type of building, if it were to be built, you wouldn't expect it to have like any heavy maintenance in 20 or 30 years from now, just from your overall expertise?
What would be the big maintenance issues of it would be the refrigeration units. And they generally have a lifespan of about 20 to 30 years. You know, as long as we can specify the proper equipment and get the proper equipment, then it shouldn't be anything more than what we have on some of our other buildings.
Okay.
Yes, thanks for coming today. One of the questions I had is, are there any fines and penalties imposed by the state that are in state statute that may exist if we don't build this? If we say, you know, we'll just hold on to the trailer from Clark County for as long as we can and just kind of see what we can get away with here and there. I'm guessing there are probably a lot of penalties associated with that. I don't know if
I don't know of any penalties, but I can state on an ethical standpoint
of course.
of it, you know, those that I'm not necessarily lying to the families, but when we leave, I let them know that we're going to be bringing their loved one back to our facility.
Sure.
Well, our facility happens to be a trailer, a mobile home trailer. And I think if I were to say that, I think ethically, families would be very upset. And I mean, it is a respectable, it does have, you know, racking, they're not laying on the floor. It is a mobile morgue is what it is. But I think it's the perception to the family.
And so just to kind of echo up Supervisor Gaffney's comments, I'm truly haunted by the whole highway project and kind of what may occur there or may not occur there, seeing what we have to do. So whatever we do build here, I really like it to be, you know, less than a long time. If I can take me good people who, that is pretty much all I have. Thank you. Great. All the
Oh, we addressed this issue. My concern was always that we had a viable option to go with while we were finding a long-term solution. And it sounds like what Cheryl has to say is that we have some interim arrangements with the mobile morgue on loan. We've explored the option of renting a mobile morgue from a company that provides those so that we would have our own. That in and of itself would be a temporary solution. The other solution that we had discussed in the past was utilizing the services of the livery service, the hauler for the deceased. And that was thoroughly discussed and vetted as were the other option. The ideal option would be what is proposed today to combine a ongoing project which has been on the planning drawing boards at least for nearly a decade and is finally coming to fruition, and combining it with this other storage issue that we're facing. And so that my observation from what has been discussed with this committee in the past is that this is kind of a logical progression, just as we're progressing from a coroner structure to a medical examiner structure. We're taking each hurdle as it presents itself. And you know, I'd have no problem at this point asking to move to approve the project as it has been presented. because I can't draw any other alternative that would provide a long-term solution. But the one question I would have is, what is the capacity for our cold storage freezer? And would we have space available for lease to surrounding counties as their needs may increase, much as we have depended upon Fond du Lac for their medical examiner, their physician, forensic.
Pathologist.
Yeah,
The capacity of the cooler that is in the plan would be for 12 to 14. Along with that, there would also be a 2-drawer freezer for our longer term guests. Say.
yeah. So I would ask for, looking for a second, so
Yeah.
move on with that.
Okay, great. Any additional discussion?
My questions and concerns were already addressed.
Okay, great.
Mike, has this gone out to bond already? I see something that says.
No,
bond.
it has not.
And I just have a couple really quick clarifying questions. The first is the trailer that's on loan from Clark County. How long do we have it before that time comes again where we have to extend?
It's pretty much everything has been verbal, so they've been very nice in that aspect, but they were looking to have it back beginning of February already, and we're
Okay.
now in May. and
Right,
we still-
almost.
We still have it and we're still utilizing it.
What is plan B if they just come, and I know they wouldn't do this, but if they just came and grabbed the trailer and left?
Oh, Lord, I don't even want to think about
Do we have a
that.
plan? Do we have a?
No, that's I'm sure that I could beg Fond du Lac,
Okay,
but.
it might be good to have at least some sort of
Right.
backup thought, but.
We did have a backup here, before we did get the trailer, and the day that we needed to activate that, they said no. Even though we had already gone, toured the facility, talked to them, made sure everything was ready. And yep, we need 24 hours notice. And then when I tried to activate that, he'd said no. And I, explained that we came to tour and you agreed. And he said, yeah, but I really didn't think it would ever happen. So, and that was our feasible backup. But like I said, I would end up probably begging Fond du Lac to help us out, but they're running into the same issue that we are.
Hey, did I hear correctly? So if I remember, Winnebago County has 3 hospitals, right? Mercy, Aurora, and Theta.
Yeah.
They only have 2 spaces per hospital.
Even Theta, which is a trauma. I do too.
Required by any sort of state statute, federal laws anymore, or is that just, that's what it is? and that's it?
And then what is the average, you use stay, so we'll go with that. What is the average stay of someone who's in?
It would kind of depend on whether or not there's going to be an autopsy. Average stay, I would say 3 to 5 days. If they're going to be autopsies, then it solely depends on when that autopsy gets scheduled. We've had them out as far as 11 days, 12 days.
At that point, do they go into
They get transported to Fond du Lac for autopsy, and then they're either released to the funeral home or they come back to us. The longest that we have had a decedent was over a year. And we had to utilize the funeral home at that point. And they were not pleased with us, but again, they were kind enough not to charge us storage. So we were
The
very
county was
lucky
not-
on that one. Yeah. Good relationship with them, but it's not something we can ask of them all the time. So.
Regarding the bids, what is the timeline on the bids? Like, you said that you're gonna be putting this out to bid, what's the timeline on that? Like, when do you think that we would get some bids back?
Well, we would have to get approval for the project from the county board. That would hopefully occur in June.
From that time?
From that time, we'd have to go out for an RFP for a design. Or see what the additional cost would be for the architect that we've got now. And then we'd have to go into the design process, which could take 3 to 4 months to hopefully get everything all finalized up. And then it would go out for bid for about 6 weeks. And then it could take probably 6 months to a year to build, depending on how things go. If you let the bids in November, they can get the groundwork done hopefully before it freezes. But once you start getting to the winter season, it slows down construction considerably.
So you think that maybe about 5 to 6 months, from June, if it is approved in June, is like, when we could start actually putting a shovel to the ground?
Yes.
Okay.
Yeah. We would try to expedite it as fast as we can, given the circumstances. But, I'm just going to go on record and say everybody's got the same labor problems that the county has.
Right.
It's, firms are jammed up with work, and it's hard to have them ramp up staffing when they can't get staffing.
Right. Well, yeah, and that's the reason for my question, is just kind of to manage expectations.
Yeah.
Okay, with that, we have a second. So in favor, please say aye. Against, say nay. All right, I just want to have to, yes, thank you. First time in, look at this. And then I'll just keep this right here. You don't need to keep coming up, Oh, all right, perfect. Okay, the next item actually is just a quick comment, and that is just to make sure that all of the members know that you can opt out of the printed packets. If you would rather just get it electronically, or go to the web and get it, you would just have to contact the county clerk's office, and they can make that adjustment. So it's more of a comment, just so you know, depending on how you like to work. Okay, the next item is brief overview from department heads and their departments. So, a couple comments on this before we start.
Going down to 11.
No, perhaps I need clarification then. I thought we were going to do this part and do the consideration votes at the very end. We wanted to do this, right, Paul? I want to make sure that I'm doing.
Well, I thought that after number 6 comes number 7.
Yep, which we just did.
Materials question.
Yep, we just finished that. So we've done with number 7. That was just a comment that you can contact the clerk's office. And then you propose doing 8, right?
Well, yeah. I'm disoriented here because I didn't bring my amended agenda. I'm still working from the original one. But still, how did I miss what our materials receiving is?
So yeah, I just mentioned that, and that was if you would rather have these documents electronically versus send it to you printed, and you can contact the county clerk's office.
Okay.
That was it. That was just a.
That was just a comment on
Just a
your
comment.
behalf.
Yes.
Okay. And we're not expecting department heads who are here to address the committee.
No, that's the agenda item we're on now.
Right.
Yeah.
The question was, is that we would continue with that one.
Sure.
That's the next on the agenda. Your comment was, we have some items 12,
Oh, okay,
13,
well,
14.
I should have had 9, 10, and 11 rather than 8, 9, and 10, because I was working off of the
Right.
original agenda.
Right, because the purpose of what you had said is you didn't want to waste our department head times with us debating things that you don't really need to,
That's right, that's
right?
right.
And it's late, we don't want to waste your time. I think that's what he was trying to do.
Okay.
I think we're good with that, right? Yeah?
Yeah.
Better me, I just want to write it down right.
Yeah,
All right.
I just
Right.
Right.
All right, we're good, we're good. So with that, next on the agenda is brief overview from department heads and their department. And prior to the first one, I just want to again thank all of the department heads and everyone coming in tonight. I know it's a lot of change. It's a lot of change, right? We're not doing it at 9 anymore, we're doing it at 6. That's the end of the day. So I really appreciate it. And I also appreciate the fact that we had to move it from that Monday to this Wednesday. So there's a lot of change with this one. But just know that going forward, it will still be the second Monday of the month. It'll just be at 6 p.m. versus in the morning. So that is what we're planning, at least right now, to do. And with that, I think I'd like to actually start by just making sure you know who is part of this, the new committee as well. I was going to do that at the very beginning, but we didn't have all of our committees, so now we do, which is awesome. So with that, I would just like you to say who you are so you know who we are. So again, I'm Brian Stafford and I am District 10. I cover Neenah.
Yeah, all right, sure. Also Brian Defferding. I cover District 6, also in the city of Neenah, kind of south of Doherty Island to Cecil Street, to give you an idea. I did also served on the Judiciary Public Safety Committee for the Wisconsin Counties Association and Judiciary Public Safety Committee for the National Counties Association. And so now I'm on this committee. This is going to be my third term.
I am Conley Hanson, District 26. That's kind of the Fox Crossing, Appleton corner of the county.
Okay, great. Thank you. Jacob.
My name is Jacob Flom. I represent District 16, which is downtown Oshkosh. So a portion of North Main Street up to Irving, most of UWO up to the Vine and Woodland section, and then parts of the southern portion of the downtown area down to the lakeside and the west portion of Division Street. So I'm happy to be here. Thank you.
And Paul.
I'm Paul Eisen. I've been on the Judiciary Committee for a decade. I won't say anymore.
Yes, lots of change. Paul is definitely, we're very blessed to have him on this committee for sure. Okay, so with that, if we could start then with emergency management. And again, the purpose here is a few minutes just to give a really quick understanding of where you're at, what the key issues are. We don't, please don't take this as anything more than just a quick introductory. This is who I am and this is what's important to my department at this point. Thank you.
That'll be pretty good. Thanks for having us tonight. I'm Eric Rasmussen. I'm the Director of Emergency Management for the county. So our office is just upstairs in this building, although we are a standalone department. My department consists of myself and a deputy and a part-time emergency management specialist. So even though we are a small department in people, we have a huge role, especially when it comes to disasters. We are 24/7, 365 on call, but we are not field responders. So we are logistical responders in the office or in what would be the emergency operations center. We will do some training on that or education for you guys at the time too. We are a federally mandated department and we are very heavily grant funded. A lot of our work revolves around those grant deliverables. We provide preparedness, planning and support for all county departments, all towns, cities and villages, and all response agencies. So our scope of the work that we can do can span just about anything from a pandemic to providing support on a cyber attack to an incident involving mass casualties. Cheryl. So like we kind of span the gamut. We serve as a conduit between the local municipalities and the county and the state when we receive resources. So we're the conduit that can request those. Our office maintains and operates the tornado sirens in the county. During a disaster, we help coordinate FEMA public assistance or individual assistance for the Wisconsin Disaster Fund. That's what gets our municipalities reimbursement after those disasters. A few issues that my office faces. Always education and buy-in of the importance of preparedness. I like to tell people that I hope I spend the rest of my career planning for things I never use. We have a small staff. We're very heavily involved on a lot of committees and a lot of requests for training and input throughout the communities. So we get spread pretty thin sometimes when there's only 2.8 of us. One project that I'll be looking for action on, hopefully within the next few months. Mike and myself and Parks and Information Systems have been working on an upgrade project with Sunnyview Expo Center. That facility is kind of our catch-all for emergency preparedness, from shelters to reunification to COG uses where we would operate government functions if we couldn't be in one of our buildings. Through a lot of our exercises and trainings, we just have discovered that a power outage would really impact us there. So there's not generator support there, and that could be a very viable situation that we would need that. So there are some upgrades that are involved with making that facility compliant so that we could add a generator to it. So it's a project we've been working on for quite some time that I hope we can push forward to you guys for review and approval later this year.
Were there any quick questions?
Oh, it's easy. Great.
Great, thank you so much. Appreciate that. Come back up.
Cheryl Braver, Winnebago County Coroner. Like emergency management, we are actually also a small office. Our office consists of 4 people. So I say we're small but mighty. There are 3 of us that are actual out in the field as investigators, and then we have an administrative associate. She is also deputized and trained, so she can back herself if we really get into a jam. Most of my goals and objectives for the last, since I took over at the end of 2019, has been upgrading our office. Very ancient cameras to document anything. Upgraded our last one this year. We are all set, as well as our reference materials. We were working with toxicology books from the 1970s and 80s, where gabapentin and things like that in them. Along with responding to death investigations, we're all very involved as well in prevention. All of us sit on different boards, child death review, overdose fatality review, work with the victim crisis response team, Breakwater, which was the heroin task force. So we're heavily involved in the prevention aspect, hoping that we don't have to respond to these types of calls. I came up here, I think you know my one concern right now already, and that is the one thing that we bring into the board.
Thank you. Were there any questions?
I have a quick question, and forgive me if this sounds uneducated or whatnot, but do all deceased persons have to go to the coroner's office, or can a family decide to go straight to the office?
If there is nothing criminal, nothing, there's a natural death, no need for autopsy, anything of that aspect, then we can release right to the funeral home of family's choice. If the family is unable or unwilling to choose a funeral home, then it falls back on us.
I just want to say that I just remember the previous coroner, and Cheryl's been miles and miles better. It's great that you're actually here speaking of this as an example. So I just praise your work. You've done a great job, and look forward to working with you in the future.
Thank you.
Thank you very much. Okay, child support.
Hi, Julie Mabry, Child Support. So Child Support Department is a little bit unique in most counties because we are funded a lot, 66% through federal funds. Our program is a program that is federally required if a participant is receiving any type of public benefits from either economic support or child welfare. So we get all of our referrals that come over from those departments into our department. So when we do our budgets, I usually successfully confuse everybody. We also are funded by the state for our performance levels as well. So we get money from the state for our performance that comes right off the top of whatever our budget is. And then whatever is remaining, we submit to the federal government and get 66% of that back. So as far as, looking at all the different departments as a whole, ours is a little bit, less impactful, I would say, on the county as others, which is a good thing. So excuse me for all of that. Usually every other year I do come in front of this committee as well and ask for support from our county for legislation for the state. And that also is relatively confusing between Mary Ann and myself and all of our committees. I'm not asking for support for legislation for a county. It's for at the state level, they want to get the support from individual counties to increase the child support funding in the biannual budget at the state. Is usually what I'm trying to request. So a lot of times it leads me down paths on going to other committees that either I needed to or I didn't need to, but usually it's not very painful. We get through it. So you'll see me for that too. Currently, right now, I am going through a corrective action plan with the state of something that stemmed from the 70s. And so haven't completed that yet. So I don't know what that will end up looking like. But when we get there, there will be some financial impact coming down the pike from that. Haven't been able to kind of fine tooth all of that yet. Yeah.
Were there any questions
for
on the
me?
committee? Oh, we're great. Thank you so
Yeah,
much.
thanks for having me.
Thank you. Okay, Sheriff's Department.
We've all been spending a lot of time together. So again, I'm Todd Christopherson, the Chief Deputy, and had the opportunity to give a tour with you all, most of you all on Monday, and private tours outside of that, and then the county board meeting last night. One of the things we look at for our roadmap is obviously our goals and accomplishments. I won't go through them. I'm just going to hand them out to you. So we have 21 accomplishments and 22 goals. And really, it's a roadmap of where we've been and where we're headed to. And some of the projects that we're going to be headed to, and we are a large agency. You guys know that we're 100, well, we were 197 employees. As of last night, we're 196. 4 major divisions. Patrol division provide services, law enforcement, traditional, what you would expect. It's our most visible. It's general service or direct service to 35,000 constituents in the city, along with primary jurisdiction on 41. We have a detective division. We also run the 911 communication center. And we have 31 highly trained dispatchers that take all the 911 calls in the county for 50,000 a year. And they do all the dispatching for all the law enforcement, all the first responders, and all the fire groups in the county. So that's a big responsibility. And as you guys are starting to see, we're going to be before you a lot with projects. In addition to that, there's also the jail, the 355-bed facility. I spoke previously about the constitutional nature of the sheriff's office along with the statutory obligations. Statutory obligations is obviously just to run the jail and tend to the courts. So you see us down at the courthouse security screening center. With the operation in the jail, that is our largest division. It's our largest budget monetarily, and it's where you're going to see a lot of our projects. So I just have a real quick PowerPoint so you guys can see where we're headed. So some of the projects we're looking at for 2022 is the update that was approved last night of the flooring project. So that was approved. So we're going to be moving forward with that. The approval was the 17th, and we expect to have that project done hopefully within about 9 months. That's what we're shooting for. Next project then is going to be the, we had, obviously with COVID, we came into a situation where we had, throughout the course of it, 206 positive inmates, and we started running vaccine clinics, but we're still having issues. COVID isn't going away. So we ran out of, between quarantining people for isolations of 14 days and upon admittance, we ran out of cells. So what we did was we were able to go ahead and to obtain some grant funding from the state that helped us to do a retrofit of some of the cells. So it was approved by the county board, March 15th, 2022. And we are, you see the top left there, we have 45 cells that look like that with the mesh screening. What we're going to be able to do is put a glass clad polycarbonate. It's like fancy name for plexiglass that's basically security grade, right? But it's pricey. So they're going to come in, they're going to retrofit 45 of our cells with that. And what that's going to do is increase our isolation cells from 61. So we'll have a lot more capacity. The total project is $422,000. We were able to get a grant for $148,000. And the approval by the board was March of 2022. We're going to begin construction on May 26th. The deadline for that is a hard deadline of October 1st. And the vendor that took the contract knows that, because that's when we have to have the reporting into the state to meet the grant requirements. This is going to be something that's going to be in the future. It's a 2023 CIP project. It's the cabling. So the building was built in 2003, and all the cabling, that's all the data wire that supports all of the cameras that we have. In total, we have 117 cameras in the jail, also on the exterior of the building. And that same cabling also runs down to the courthouse monitors. So we can actually, as a redundant system, we can control the cameras and all the doors and stuff from here at the courthouse as well if something happens down there. So it's going to be reducing all those. And at the same time, in addition to the cameras that we have existing 117, we're going to add 14. That's going to increase monitored cells from 15 to 28. Mental health is a serious issue in our community. We have, I talked on the tour that we have a mental health provider that's embedded on staff 40 hours a week doing assessments. We work very closely with human services. And when we have to have those types of observations, it's risk management. So we have deputies in the area doing increased checks. We have cameras at the cells within the direct supervision pods and also at that master control, which some of you had witnessed. So the 14th camera is going to be in an area that's been identified by our jail inspector. It's an area in the kitchen that's not under direct supervision without the staff member that's back there from our contracted vendor having to actually like go and look. It's a dry area. They recommended putting a camera in that. These are all, in addition to being monitored, they're camera recorded. So we're able to go back. So the cost estimate for this, rough estimate right now, we're looking at about $150,000. The evidence drive, which you guys approved a little bit earlier, I just wanted to give you just a snapshot of what our original proposal was before the coroner ended up joining onto the project. So that's what it looks like. We have two areas in our existing garage. We have a garage and then an evidence processing area. This is what our garage looks like. So with the advantage or the advances in DNA testing, obviously that's required us to keep a lot more material. Okay. What it also does is basically we have to keep things, you know, in their right compartments. So we have refrigerators, we have freezers, we have DNA preservation requirements. This past weekend, when we start storage, it's a real ebb and flow. We have to keep things as long as the prosecutor says we have to. So even if we get a conviction, the prosecutor will basically tell us, let's say it's a homicide involving a motor vehicle. We just had one we had to seize over the weekend on 76, a vehicle versus a pedestrian. We had to take that vehicle, put it into our garage. It's going to stay there until this case is adjudicated. Not only is the case adjudicated, but all the appeal rights have also been exhausted. We have some vehicles for cold cases that have been in storage for 30 years. So this is our need for that. In the ebb and flow of crime, it's like overdoses, you can't predict it. So last weekend, we took 2 large pieces of evidence into our storage. The other was for an attempted homicide where a person was shooting at a vehicle as the occupant fled and struck him. So. So as you guys are aware, it was originally approved April 2021. It's 2,500 square feet, cold storage. Price estimate was 305. Now that's obviously has been updated. And this is going to be the next big one on the horizon. So this has been on our plate since 2011. So 2011, we did a radio project for all of Winnebago County. And at that time, it was $11 million. We built an entire new radio system infrastructure. And we also bought all radios for all first responders in Winnebago County. That's why it was $11 million. $6 million was infrastructure, about $5 million was radio. So we bought radios for Oshkosh Police, Oshkosh Fire, Needham and Asha Police, Needham and Asha Fire, all the township first responders, Amro, everybody. When we gave all that up to them, we told them, hey, in 10 years, you're going to have to replace these radios. You need to sign this agreement. We're giving you these radios. And in 10 years, you understand you're going to have to purchase your own radios when the system upgrade comes. So that has happened. So from the Winnebago County standpoint, we're going to be replacing 414 units. So those units, the sheriff's office manages them. They're for us, they're for the highway department, they're for facilities, public health, the DA's office, and emergency management. The other agencies are starting to replace already. We've had Oshkosh PD, Oshkosh Fire, Neenah PD, Menasha PD have already replaced their radios. Neenah Menasha Fire is looking at doing it later. A lot of those have used the ARPA money that's available for those purchases. That's something that we are going to propose to the board for consideration. Ultimately, it'll be up to you folks to decide whether that's a worthwhile venture or how you want to fund that. But it's definitely a need that's on a horizon. We are looking at an incorporation of the CIP project of the money. We have planned on doing it over a 3-year period, 23, 24, 25. If you guys decide you want to do it all in a one lump sum decision making, those are things that as a committee and as a board, we're going to have to come to consensus on. Try to be brief. Brevity is not always my strong suit. I have a lot of information I'm willing to share.
Great. Any questions?
I do.
Yes,
In regards to the cameras, I know that in regards to just having the jail going through accreditation, the biggest expense there was the suicide watch.
Absolutely.
And that required one-on-one supervision.
Us, and we subscribed to that tenet. So last weekend, we had 2 individuals that were on 15-minute checks. They were in camera monitored cell. Deputies sat right in between them and watched both of them 24 hours a day until they were off suicide watch.
Yeah, and so I guess my question is in regards to those cameras, would that assist in that?
It assists in it, but it doesn't replace it.
Okay, all right, thank you.
Yes.
This is maybe the 4th time I've seen you.
Yes, busy. Yeah, we've been busy this week. Sheriff picked a good week to be on vacation.
Right.
And he never goes anywhere, right? I mean, we were talking about it. We're trying to think the last time
Not for a week.
he's always
No.
really. So I mean, good for him for finally stepping away.
I just want to commend you for all the work you do. You do so much of it, and I don't even know where to start. How many, because I know that we are one of the few accredited police departments, or sheriff's departments in the state. How many are accredited again? I knew you told me, I just didn't remember the number off the top
Yeah,
of
so
my head.
there's 46 fully accredited law enforcement agencies in the state of Wisconsin.
Okay.
And there are 3 sheriff's offices that are accredited out of the 72 in the state of Wisconsin. So it's a huge undertaking for us. It's 211 standards of policy enumeration. Each one of those ends up having multiple dimensions within it. So it's over 500 standards that you have to basically subscribe to. Everything from hiring to use of force, to administration, to employment rights, to you name it, and they're all covered by separate chapters. And we know what we're talking about because we started pursuit of it in 2012. We first received accreditation in 16. So we just finished our third, we did it in 15. We got formally appointed. So that we just finished up our 3rd accreditation cycle. We've been identified as a flagship agency, one that others should try to emulate, which is a great accomplishment.
We should be really proud of, and thank you for all the due diligence on that. It's not an easy one.
Well, thank you for the recognition. It's a lot of work, no doubt.
In regards to the use of force reports, where can we go find that?
Those are on our website.
Mhm.
So they are Winnebago, and that's one of the things that from the countywide level, we know that it needs a refresh. And we're very active on social media. And we're waiting for that, for all of us to come together at the table so we can get a new webpage, because it isn't really what we would expect the 7th largest county in the state of Wisconsin to look like. So those use of force incidents are right under the sheriff's office tab, bottom left. They're enumerated in every single year. They're from field services and the corrections division. And we had talked, I had shared with you that our use of force, the amount of incidents we respond to, where we go hands-on with somebody in our field services division, is less than 0.05%, less than 0.5%. Because our people do what I do right now is we talk. We take time on our side, we de-escalate, and we always have the advantage of disengaging and trying to get that voluntary compliance.
And if I recall, I think we started the use of force reports even before it was even mandated.
Absolutely.
Like years before.
Absolutely. So it corresponded with the transparency initiatives that we've done. You know, Sheriff Motz took over in 2011. Shortly thereafter, 2013, we started an annual report. Our annual report has a lot of the information that you're going to see is our new initiatives. It has each section, each of the 4 major divisions broken out as to what was new in the division, what we do, calls for service. You'll find the number of 911 pocket dials, the amount of miles that we've driven from a transport area. And 2 years ago, we started including the use of force reporting in the reports. But previously, we have actually placed them online.
Fantastic.
We're an open book.
Yeah. No, it's
We're
great.
proud of what we do, and we're willing to talk about it and share. And
Any other questions? Perfect.
okay,
so
thank
much.
you.
Appreciate
I'll be
it.
back. I'll be here. I think we're still doing the sheriff's report.
Yes. Oh, yeah, you have don't go too far. You got a couple things going on here, yeah. Yeah, I think I got it. So we're now going to do
We've got one more department head from the Veterans Commission.
oh,
I'm sorry.
I am.
Supervisor Stafford, I did not reply properly to your.
That is okay. That's why I did add any other department heads. So, any other department heads who want to come up and speak?
I'll go, yeah, I'm gonna take it, yeah. Okay.
Thank you.
Hi, so I'm Tara Berry, and I am probably one of the newer department heads. So first time for me coming in front of any committee, to be honest. So thank you for having us and inviting us. I truly appreciate it to give me a chance to talk to everybody. So what does the clerk of courts do? So I got a lot of congratulations back in November of 2021, like, yeah, good job. And what do you do? Was always the next follow-up question. So we maintain the record. Maybe not for all the cases that are filed in Winnebago County. Probate or the register of probate does some stuff, but we do a lot of the big bulkier ones, all the criminal, family, maternity, small claims, civil actions, things like that. Maintain the record is probably one of the largest things that we do, and we're pretty diligent on following a certain format. We also do jury management. So one of my favorite parts of jury management is talking to jurors weekly or a couple times a month and going through the jury orientation and talking to them about how important their job is for the county to help us get through these cases that get to a jury trial. Exhibits, again, retention periods for those, we deal with that. Collection of monies for county and state, we do a lot of that. So we have a great collection company that has brought in a lot for the state and the county. That's gone back to the general trust. We saw a huge increase when we first started using them. It's kind of dipped down a little bit, but now we're pretty even. I think last year we took in for the county over $700,000. So we're glad to see those numbers. We're hoping to see another nice increase to be able to put back into that general trust. We also provide annual reports to the state. So I just did that. This has been really a trial by fire type of appointment. I'm going through a lot of changes this first year. So goals and just kind of concerns are all kind of wrapped in one and how we're going to get through them. We have 2 new judges that are going to be taking office August 1st. That always comes with a lot of changes. We also have 1 court commissioner retiring June 10th. One of the court commissioners was elected into one of the seats here in the county. So that leaves 2 brand new court commissioner possible positions open. We have a new CCAP 3 implementation coming to the court system for my clerks. That's happening in July, so that's a lot of different training aspects that we're gonna have to try to get through with my clerks. And then my first crack at budget. And luckily I have a great support system in my office. And Melissa's been nice enough to hold my hand through it, I think, in the county. So other than that, that's pretty much about it right now.
So I was actually on jury
Oh,
earlier this year. It's the first time I've been on jury. And so that is a really interesting process. It's just a day-long court case that we were tasked with presiding over, and I think it was really informative and honestly a really fun experience. For some of the people, it's not.
yeah.
But the way the county handled it was, and the way the court system handled it was very professional and well done. And I want to thank the court's office for doing that. The
Absolutely.
second thing is, I had a conversation with one of the new judges. I know that he won't have his investiture until August. I know he's having a tough time hiring a court reporter.
Yeah.
How endemic is that across the state, or is that just an issue in this county?
No, it's across the state. So DCA, District Court Administrator, has made it very clear that the court reporter crisis, it's a crisis. So funny enough that as part of like a backup plan for me, I had actually enrolled in the digital court reporter program and graduated actually a week ago from that. That's the next stage. So every courtroom in the state of Wisconsin has received a digital audio recording device. It's kind of a supplemental to what you see where somebody's typing in the courtroom. This is to record all of the hearings. Winnebago County has been lucky enough not to have to utilize a DAR recorder, but it's coming. When I was in my program, they said that 70% of all court reporters are within retirement age in the state of Wisconsin. There's not a lot of well-known interest into the digital audio recording program, but they're trying to promote that to the younger generation to try to get that out there. I know DCA has set up a nice office in Neenah, and or Menasha, I think, and I just visited that facility last week. So they have people, they're almost at full capacity, but a digital court reporter is usable anywhere in the state. So you can remote in and clerk or take the notes for Milwaukee, Madison, or somewhere up north or locally. So they decide who goes where. He's going to be posting it. He has not received any interest, but it's more because people aren't going to school for it. It's just something. And so when you find a court reporter, they have their pick of where they want to work, who they want to work for. They can be selective because there's just not as many anymore. So
And we're saying that having a full-time court reporter in person in that specific branch may soon be.
maybe, I mean, you can even have your own DAR reporter. So a branch can be assigned a DAR reporter, but we haven't gotten to that point yet. Some of the other larger counties like Dane County, Milwaukee County, they may see that. We haven't gotten there yet. So we've had some pretty dedicated court reporters for many, many years. But now we're getting into that point where we have some retirements, and that's where we're running into just not enough people to do the job anymore. But it's a need.
Thank you. Great. Any other questions?
Thank you.
Thank you very much.
Right.
And I apologize for not replying.
Oh, I think I even said, don't worry, come if you can, and I would ask if there's anyone there, so no worries.
Okay, my name is Jeff Buchholz. I'm the County Veteran Service Officer. Like some of my other department head coworkers here, we have a small department also. Our county myself, we have we have 7 staff members, slots. We have 6 currently. We are in the process of 31 right now, going through the interview process here soon. We have 2 offices. We have an office in the Neenah Human Services Building, and we have an office here in the Oshkosh Human Services Building. So 7 people spread between 2 offices. We're co-located with Aging and Disability Resource Center, economic support, all those human services pieces. We just focus on the veteran side of the equation here in the county. There are roughly 12,000 veterans in Winnebago County. And it's our job to help connect them with benefits. That benefit could be anything from enrolling them in VA healthcare education benefits at the college, to applying for a government marker for the grave. So it's the whole span of their life, their whole life here. We try to be a one-stop shop in the county. What I mean by that is we work close with the federal VA and the Wisconsin Department of Veteran Affairs to help administer benefits here in the county. So instead of, if a veteran wants to apply for, let's say, disability compensation because he hurt his knee in service and it's really starting to bother him, he doesn't have to drive all the way down to Milwaukee Regional Office and apply for benefits at the regional office there. He can come right to Winnebago County, right here in Oshkosh, and we can assist him. We're accredited with the federal government and the state government to represent veterans here in the county. So also, we also work with like the federal VA to provide space for the vet center mental health counseling. Instead of a veteran having to go up to Green Bay to receive mental health counseling, the counselor comes down to Winnebago County. And we have space in our office dedicated for him to meet with veterans one-on-one. So it's basically, we're trying to be trying to do everything we can right here locally for the veterans, instead of making them travel all over the place to get their benefits. So I do have some handouts, just at your leisure, just take a look at them, please. The reason I want to hand these out is because we do so much, and I can talk about veteran benefits all night, and you guys would literally be asleep. But we do so much to help veterans. And I'm very proud of my staff. Very proud of them. They work very hard to educate themselves on the different laws that are applicable to veterans. So please take a moment at your leisure to look that over. And if you have any questions.
Just kind of ask you, crossing over agencies here. Say that, and I may loop in sheriffs on this too. Say that we have a deputy or someone who is employed at sheriff's department who is a veteran. I don't know if you have any currently, but let's say, because I know that there is a organic mental health component within sheriff's department. Would that person also be eligible to receive the mental health counseling through the veterans department as well, or just at their discretion?
Well, we have an embedded therapist that's with our agency 8 hours a day, every Thursday. So it's and we make visits available through that person, and the VA benefits would be separate, additional. So we at the sheriff's office, we provide EAP benefits that are provided from the sheriff's office. Then there's EAP benefits that are provided by the county through human resources. And then these VA benefits would be an additional resource.
Okay, so there's no crossover or handoff, right?
If an employee, in a lot of it is the personal choice of the person. If they want to go to a provider that would be covered by all three, like our provider actually works for the network provider that's used by human resources. So there is that interplay, that interoperability of services. For them, it's seamless, because when people are struggling, we don't want them all of a sudden to be compounded their issues by now they're getting all these bills. So the idea is to try to make it as seamless and as easy as possible. And our therapist that we have on staff does a good job of that. We always say that she's kind of like with diversion programming. It's the human services person we have in here. They're not going to solve them in the 16 days that they're in jail, but they are going to identify what resources they need in the community, and they're going to be the warm handoff. So our counselor is that warm handoff to the EAP services that are in the community.
That was a very good question, though, because sometimes people think that if this person's a veteran, they have to go to the VA and they have to do everything through the VA, and they're not eligible for these other programs. That's not the case. The VA is here to supplement any programs that are out there. Now, if they don't have anything, yeah, the VA is there for them. So that's part of the reason why we recently moved from where we were in the CAB to the Oshkosh Human Services building, is so we can work closer with ADRC and the behavioral health services that are right there in the building. So.
Thank you.
That's all I have. I don't have any immediate needs or any things that I look into, any agenda items to push things. So
Any other questions? Okay, thank you very much. I have to say, isn't it amazing the services that the county provides? I mean, it is just amazing. It really is. As someone who is relatively new to just this in general, I've only been doing this for a year. It is just outstanding. And I can't wait to hear more of the departments as well. And that is the plan, that over the next few months that we'll have an opportunity to have that quick one-on-one with each of the department heads. In addition to that, if you ever have any questions, all of them have extended an offer for more in-depth conversation as well. So thanks again for all of those who came up today. So now we're going to move to, which is on the amended agenda would be number 12, which is the consideration vote resolution requesting Sheriff John Motz to read the Declaration of Independence on the courthouse steps on July 4th, 2022. Oh, I'm so sorry.
I move to approve. Last decade.
Yes, we have a second. Any, you caught me off guard here. That's right. Any additional conversation or discussion on this? I would
Have Chief Deputy explain
Right.
where it is, when it is.
Yeah, I'd be happy to. So Sheriff Motz has done this since he took office in 2011. Every year, on July 4th, he goes to the courthouse steps and he reenacts 1776, July 4th, the Declaration of Independence when he reads it aloud. That's something that was started back then because obviously you didn't have telephones and internet, and it was a way to help disseminate that news, is that we were separating from the reign of England and that we were becoming our own country. So that reenactment is, I've gone to it every year. It's a nice event. So obviously would welcome you all. And if you're looking, I have an excerpt that Bill Wingren had previously put together throughout the years. If you're looking for some type of a news release or something, if you want to follow it, it's a nice little template to follow. The sheriff is obviously, he's on board, he's agreed to it.
Can I ask you a question?
Yeah.
I have unfortunately been out of town the last several years over, what is the attendance? I'm just curious. I have no objection to it. I'm just curious.
Yeah, I usually try to keep track. It's usually right around 80 to 100 people.
That was our last year's.
Yeah.
Okay, there is with motion second, we are additional discussion. There is a way to make a motion to make a change. And I'll explain why. Line 17, where it says now, therefore, be it resolved by the Winnebago County Board of Supervisors that it hereby, what I'm going to suggest, and I think this is what we were trying to get at, and I'm looking for suggestions here, but instead of saying Winnebago County Board of Supervisors, we would say the Judiciary and Public Safety Committee. And
No, this goes up to the,
Well, and that-
to the soup.
right,
So
right.
we should just approve it and let the county board approve it, and then we're on our way.
So the question is,
Just move it on to the county board.
I understand that. I understand. The question that I would like to pose to this committee is, we have the option of just having this committee approve it and then it goes. it would just go right to the sheriff to do. Do we want to have?
No, it goes to the county board. And then, just like it's always been.
Point of order, Mr. Chairman, is it required for the county board to authorize this order for this request to be brought to the sheriff's desk? Excuse me.
I would want to have, unfortunately, we don't have corporation counsel here, but from what I understand, it does not.
I would like to offer an amendment, and this is going to be a little bit deeper. Line 18 requests, so that it hereby requests, instead of Sheriff John Motz, the sheriff of Winnebago County, and it will read, as usual, on the steps of the Winnebago County Courthouse at 8 a.m. on the morning of the 4th of July, annually, as is the custom in the early history of our county, to ensconce that this be required annually instead of just at the discretion of the sheriff, regardless of who the sheriff is.
Okay, so
Would that require a change in ordinance, though?
no, it would not.
Okay.
That was actually, because we actually, that was brought up last year as well. Could you repeat that one more time, please?
So,
You need a pen?
yes, if that's possible. So request the Winnebago County Sheriff to read the Declaration of Independence from the steps of the Winnebago County Courthouse on 8 a.m. on the 4th of July.
I call for the question.
I just want to hear what he's trying to say here and then.
I call for the question.
Well, I think that's what we're trying to do here.
Right, so now
There is a motion for an amendment, and he is describing what that amendment is.
Now therefore be it resolved by the Winnebago County Board of Supervisors that I hereby request the Winnebago County Sheriff to read the Declaration of Independence from the steps of the Winnebago County Courthouse at 8 a.m. on the morning of 4th of July each year, as this is the custom in the history of our, yes, this is the custom in the history of our county. So it's not in the history of our county. So basically that would require, or at least suggest that the sheriff be there every year.
Do we have a second on that? Any discussion on this specific amendment?
No questions.
Okay, all in favor of that change? Please say aye. Aye. Opposed to that change?
No,
Okay, that passes. So that was for the amendment. You're gonna have to help me here. So now we have to vote on the actual
Thing as amended.
as amended.
And I just want to add that, this is, just as a reminder too, that this is going to be considered a quorum. So this is one of the reasons why we have this as a resolution, because it will create a quorum, and so it will be considered a county board meeting.
Yep.
Need to be published, correct.
Yes. Okay, do we have a motion to approve as the?
I asked for the amended motion to be read
Yes, I can definitely.
so that the secretary can write that down.
Resolution to request the sheriff to read the Declaration of Independence on the courthouse steps on 4th of July. On 4th of July, 2022. To the Winnebago County Board of Supervisors. Whereas the Continental Congress by Declaration of Independence, dated 4th of July, 1776, declared the inhabitants of New Hampshire, Massachusetts, Rhode Island, Connecticut, New York, New Jersey, Pennsylvania, Delaware, Maryland, Virginia, North Carolina, South Carolina, Georgia were no longer colonial subjects to be exploited arbitrarily by the servants of King and Parliament of Great Britain, who are now free citizens of their own territories, and that free citizens should constitute the governments of those territories. Do I need to repeat?
No, just the changes.
Right. The changes are on line 18. Request the sheriff, the Winnebago County Sheriff, to read the Declaration of Independence from the steps of the Winnebago County Courthouse at 8 a.m. on the morning of 4th of July each year, as this is the custom in the history of our county. Period. And that is the only change.
All right, I need a motion for approval.
Motion to approve this as amended.
Do I have a second on this?
Second.
Second? Okay, any additional comments, discussion? Okay, with that, in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? It passes. Item 13, consideration of vote on resolution authorize the sheriff's office to accept a donation valued at $14,700 for the purchase of an additional K-9 unit, equipment and training for the unit from Thomas and Penny Kernberg Sheriff Office, Chief Deputy.
So Tom Penny, Herrenberg have been longtime supporters of our K-9 program. They made an original donation in 2014. At that time, we had 2 K-9 units, and they made a donation at that time to purchase a dog, and which brought us up to a capacity of 3. So we have 3 dogs, and 2 of them are beginning to end their, I guess not their service career, not to really end their life, but their end of their service career. They're about 8 years old. Typical life expectancy for work, we expect them to last anywhere between 8 to 10. So we are in that area where we would need to start replacing dogs or start to consider, and they became aware of that. So they stepped up and they wanted to support our K-9 unit again. And rather than making a donation to the Oshkosh Community Foundation, where we do have a K-9 fund, they chose rather just to pay the vendor directly. So they wrote a check to the vendor for the amount. And as a result, we were able to acquire the dog. We were able to have a K-9 handler selected, and they went to a 6-week training period, and they just actually got back last week. So I know some of the procedures are a little off. Typically, if they would have made the donation to the community foundation, we would have paid from it from there, would have let the Judiciary Committee know as an advisory measure, and that would have been the end of it. So because it's actually, they paid it, now it's an actual donation, we'll have to go through a couple extra procedures.
I also spoke with Mary Ann on this, and from a corporation counsel point of view, there are no issues or concerns. Any questions relative to this?
The Herrenbergs have donated a lot. We can't have this spending that last week. So I'd like to thank them for their generous outlays to help us with this important public safety measure.
I'll make a motion to authorize the acceptance of the donation valued at $14,700.
Do we hear a second?
Second.
Any additional discussion? All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
All opposed? That passes. Item 14 on the agenda, consideration vote, resolution authorize the Sheriff's Department to accept a donation of 1 fire TKO fire suppression tool valued at $1,041 from the Oshkosh chapter of the Wisconsin Freemasons.
Yes, so the sheriff's office currently uses this product. It's we have 11 units. It's been endorsed by the Firefighters Association. In fact, this particular group had donated to the Oshkosh Police Department, the Oshkosh Fire Department, as well as the sheriff's office. So it works by the fire triangle, oxygen, fuel, and heat. It detonates basically. It looks like a little portable suitcase. You throw it in the room, and the aerosol goes into the air and it helps rapidly cool it down and it removes the triangle of the heat component. So it's really good in sensitive electronic areas. So we have one in our hub, it's called our 1442. It's where all the fiber and all the cabling of all our data storage and all of our camera networks converge. We also keep them up on the dispatch center. We keep littered throughout the jail. So it's another tool that supplements fire suppression. It doesn't replace fire extinguishers, but it's obviously a supplemental tool. The dollar amount threshold, it's a direct donation with the value. I know Director Collard is going to be working with the board to try to get some steps in place. As when these donations come up, they're typically quick. We got called on a Wednesday by the group and said, hey, next week, Wednesday, we want to make a donation to you. We're going to be in the area. We're going to give one to you, the fire department, and Oshkosh Police. And it's to get a formalized standards of what we should and shouldn't be doing, I think is going to be good. So previously it had been where it was under $15,000. We could accept it with basically Judiciary and the Personnel and Committee Finances approval, and then it would then need to go to full county board vote. So we'll have to work through those processes as we move forward.
Also, I spoke to Marianne on this as well, and there are no concerns from a corporation council point of view on accepting this. Do we have any questions? Discussion from the committee? Oh, if I could get a motion, I so move. Additional discussion. Okay, all in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? That passes. Thank you for that. And next, sheriff's report.
Okay, I'm next. Awesome. Keep moving.
Just stay up there and keep going.
All right, so I will be brief because as we used up a lot of your time. So these are our budget sheets. I'm going to hand them out to you. And Tiana is our accountant right here in front and center. You guys will get to know her on a monthly basis. She will email you our financial statements. And as you guys have questions, feel free to reach out to her. If you have an email address that's different than your county email address, a different preference, just let her know and we'll be glad to send that way. If you don't like email and if you have an aversion to electronics, we'd be happy to mail you a hard copy, drop it off, whatever works for best for you. Obviously from the mantra, we basically at the sheriff's office we work for you. So, and it's going to be, we expect it to be a mutually beneficial relationship, and we're going to keep up our end. So if you ever need anything, call. If you want personal tours of anything, we're willing to do that. If you want to do a ride along with patrol officer, if you want to do a sit along with dispatch, if you want to spend time in a jail pod, we will make all that happen. Also, if you know people, we're going to be having our 7th annual Citizens Academy. So it's going to take us about 13 weeks, and it's going to start in August, November. Yeah, we take applications through, start August 23rd. And it runs through November 13th.
Is it going to be on Tuesdays again?
Yes, it is. Unfortunately, 6 to 9.
Okay.
But now you're our chair, so we can do a modified Citizens Academy just at your pleasure.
Oh,
that's one of the perks.
well,
You guys have interest
in that case,
we're an open book. We're willing to. There's no surprises.
okay, well,
Is that?
So when you tase them, it might be a surprise.
yeah.
If you want, we can do that.
Would it be weird if I said I actually would do that?
We'll have a waiver. We have waivers. You can sign it. So yeah, actually, when they first came out, I was an instructor in that. And they didn't have all the disclaimers back then. So when we were training all of our people, it was, we shot everybody, and I volunteered to get shot with 2 at the same time. Probably explains the hair loss. So typically at the sheriff's report, we're going to review the jail counts because obviously that's a big deal to us. So today's jail counts were at 220. You're going to see the ebb and flow on Mondays when we report out. Typically, it's going to be higher. We were around 240 on Monday. Now we've had through the exchange process, I mentioned in 96 hours. Typically, it's about 40 in, 40 out. You start to see that reduction. We're going to be holding a hiring event. It's going to be coming up next week, Tuesday, and it's going to be basically a walk-in event. We still have a fair amount of vacancies, particularly in our jail division. We're at 6. Booking security clerk is 3, and our 911 dispatch is at 3. We held critical testing today, and yesterday, how many did we? 4, so we'll have 4 candidates. We started with 71 applicants, so we'll be down to 4. Like I said, that is our hardest position as far as it's the longest training period, it's 8 months. And it's a God-given talent, either you can do it or you can't fake that skill set.
So when it comes to the jail, we need to staff it.
We do.
So if we're short, do we require overtime of deputies to cover that?
We do.
Here's a,
And when we start to have mental health problems, that deputy that had to sit there and watch the 2 inmates, that was 100% overtime, because that's an unscheduled, unanticipated cost. I'm sorry, we schedule for the normal, and when the abnormal occurs, we accomplish that by essentially overtime.
There's a national crisis in staffing for correctional officers. Is there any sort of program that the state's Badger Sheriff Association or anything federally that is done for some sort of ramping up or alleviation of this at all to get more correctional officers, or is it just really tough?
It's just the current climate we're in right now. Being in law enforcement isn't popular, and being in corrections in particular is difficult. So one of the detractants that we have, while it's good from a liability and risk management standpoint, we're a direct supervision facility, right? We're right in there. So when you spend 12 hours a day right in the mix with 64 inmates, most of you have seen you all seen the pod, right? So you know what that's like. So sitting there, it's a long day. It's a difficult job to recruit. I will say, doing good with retention. We haven't been turning over as many people as we had. So the exodus, I think we've been able to stymie our losses. The 6 vacancies we have, I do have 2 people starting in 2 weeks. Yeah, the first week of June. 1 we were able to take from the Department of Corrections. Had 2 years there, so the accelerated benefits from that perspective help us track. We have a patrol deputy that starts on the 25th. Again, accelerated benefits drew him to us. He was with the State Patrol for 8 years. So he was actually assigned to the Winnebago County District. So that's one of the benefits. The DOC is struggling. You see the vacancy rates, 30 to 50% at some of their institutions. I don't know how they function. And I don't know if they're going to circumvent the statutory, people talk about activating National Guard, whether you can or you can't, or I don't know what the solution is, but I am glad I'm here and I'm not an administrator with the DOC.
Right.
Yeah. I do have a question in regards to, I know that we just recently raised, the starting wages for sheriffs. Have you seen a change in applicants since that time, since we approved that into the budget?
The raises what they've done is they've stabilized our workforce. The amount of applications, if we were getting a lot more applications, it wouldn't have to be holding an open hiring event on the 24th. So basically it's just, we're putting it out on social media blast. Come see us with your resume. You don't need to have it. We'll do all the legwork for you. I always tell people this is that, 10 years ago, I would say to this applicant, why should I hire you? Why are you the best candidate? Today it's, you should come work for here. This is what we can offer you. This is why we're a good place to work. So the tables have really reversed. But I think as word gets out about our pay scale and the lateral transfer, the accelerated benefits, I think it's gonna help. I do know we had several people internally that were looking at leaving that now are staying. That's good to know.
We gotten any people from DOC? Because I know that's been something.
Assault and peppering, but I do think, I'm hoping that trend, and I don't want to be the agency that we're cannibalizing the Department of Corrections, but the reality is we have a facility to run and we offer a great career path. And there's some benefits that I can speak to when I'm trying to recruit people, as far as pay and the retirement status, that we're protected, that you're actually a deputy. And if you come work for us and if you have career aspirations, we have lots of career tracks. Sometimes even our people leave and they go to HR. So the current acting HR director, Mark Paddock, started with us.
only aspire to move up when you.
So he started as a booking clerk, right? And then he went to a corrections deputy, he went to a patrol deputy, and he went into management and was our jail administrator and decided to go work with Mike, I guess. Greener pastures, I don't know.
I have another question too.
Yes, sir.
We have a new district attorney.
Yes.
And I definitely think it would be great for maybe a future one is to have the new district attorney come in and introduce himself. Yes, he wasn't able to attend today. Okay. All right. So what's your relationship with him?
It's great. I've known Eric since same with Christian. We've worked closely together. I've been here for 30 years. So when Christian was prosecuting assistant district attorney, I worked with him directly. And when Eric came on, worked with him directly. And as each of them have moved through the ranks, have continued to work with them. So obviously, it's like a sibling rivalry. There are times when we agree, and then there's times when we disagree. And the reality is that people are in these positions. A lot of us are type A personalities, and we have strong convictions. But that doesn't mean that we don't get along and that we're not all trying to achieve the same goal. So I assume that our working relationships with Eric will be the same as they were with Christian.
Sounds good. Cool. Thank you. Great. Any other questions?
I always have to talk the most.
Thank you very much.
All right, thank you.
Thank you. Okay, we are going to circle back now to on the amended agenda, item 9. All right, yes. Item 9, consideration vote, resolution 35-042022. Create an ad hoc committee to review committee structure. It was referred back to Judiciary and Public Safety Committee from the county board. Sean.
So thank you for your time. I basically have done some research with the help of various resources. I was hoping we'd have enough handouts, but I can provide more handouts if you would like. So I would refer to Director Collard's information on some of this. But the reason that I came up with the resolution is because, like you, we work hard, and it's just a good opportunity to look back and see, is there anything we could do to make things more efficient? My resources that I used were from the county. I did a Google search on restructuring and right sizing. So that led me to December 2021 video. And like I say, I could email this to you as well, but this is just more of taking the video and really trying to summarize it. In this video, the attorney that spoke last night for Wisconsin County Association, he did a webinar in December of 2021. He facilitated it, and in that he interviewed or he allowed a couple of administrators from 2 counties to speak. One was Ozaki and the other one was, I believe, I can't remember, La Crosse. Just some snippets from that video was let's see, Administrator O'Malley from La Crosse County said our county board was very involved in creating this structure 20 years ago, and it has worked very well. It allows all members to be far more involved in the entire process of policy making rather than just sitting on a particular committee. Some of the other benefits, and I would just recommend if you wanted to look at that video, it's just an easy way to ingest the information. It's just their testimonies on it, but they went on to talk with Jason, administrator of Ozaki, and he said our board wanted to introduce private sector concepts, and I realize we're not, county board is not private sector, but that's one of their motivations of restructuring. And they wanted to make good use of their and the executive's time. So that was just a comment, a verbatim comment that I wrote down. Some of the other things that I learned in this video was that they would have two meetings, and some of the other information from their like 1990, there's a study, as well as 1987, another study that Director Collard would probably have, but Clerk Ertmer gave me the packet of this information. And they also recommended having like a mid-month kind of a roundtable discussion, open workshop meeting where nothing would be judged or voted on. But it was, and then later on, like a week later, they would actually do the voting. So during this Ozaki County, Jason had said that that's what they would do, a mid-month meeting, open discussion, and don't have to make decision for 2 weeks, was what they did there. Public comment only allowed at the monthly meetings of the committee. Future agenda items can be added. Also learned they would post the agenda. There would be no mailings. That was just what they did. Clerk would email a link in Ozaki County. Another thing I thought was interesting is within a month of the new term, there is a full board retreat. They would call it an advance, and they would talk about the big picture goals for the 2-year term, and they would take like a half a day to set expectations. Anyway, that is that one. I also researched, read through the Winnebago County Action Planning and Organizational Study a little bit. That was in 1987. Lots of interesting things there. Lots of proposals. That was put out by Arthur Young, and it was just a very exhaustive thing. Didn't even begin to scratch the surface of that. I found this one here, and we can get copies of this to you if interested. This is the efficiency and effectiveness of Winnebago County government in 1990. This would be the task force study. Found it again to be very, very interesting. I particularly thought that the list of recommendations on this page was, or several pages here, beginning here, was very interesting as far as what they were proposing, which leads me to Director Collard's some of the work that he has done. And I just would like to reference his agenda item report sheet on this. If I may just kind of read through this really, I'm trying to keep this brief here, but under his policy discussion, in 1990, the task force recommended 6 standing committees, which you would find here. These committees would be, for example, administration, health services, human services, plan development and education, and public works. The 1990 task force study gave several reasons for a simplified committee structure, including that, quote, the establishment of committees with broad functional jurisdiction encourages board members to evaluate issues from a broader and more integrated perspective. A simplified structure would make regular meetings easier to schedule, etc. There are points, things have been studied in this area. I am just a proponent of wanting to be part of possibly looking at it with everybody's agreement. I mean, I'm just wanting to be part of that possible solution. I would also recommend a look, maybe a second look at some of you have already seen this, but this would be Director Collard had he's taken all of this information, 1987, 1990, and all of this, and has come up with Plan A, Plan B, Plan C. Now, Plan A would, one of them was the least amount of committees, that plan, one of them was referring to the 1990 study, et cetera. But the Plan C, I would just maybe see if you could pass this through. This would be what he would recommend. And they're kind of similar to, Plan C is similar to Plan B. And I just, I found it to be very, very useful. Like I say, I'm just proposing a potential task force again, but referring back to what the county has gleaned. And I'm not an expert on anything, but I would be happy to continue to, volunteer time just to provide you all with information. That's all.
Yes.
Yeah. It sounds like, to me, what you're looking for is an education on Winnebago County's committees, commissions, and boards. Because in your resolution, you make a reference to the standing committees, and you make a reference to 3 commissions or 3 boards that have appointees from the county executive. Now, what I would recommend is that you go to the county website, that you go to the county clerks, you go to the Winnebago County public meetings, and you look at the link to those meetings, and it says filter by committee. And if you go to that link, it'll list all of the committees, commissions, and boards within Winnebago County, starting with the Advisory Committee for Children's Voluntary Services, Affirmative Action Committee,
Yeah.
Aviation Committee.
May I respond, Supervisor?
And you go all down the line, and you can go to some of these committees. You'll have to find when their last meeting was, and you can see and read their minutes, and you can educate yourself on all of the committees. Now, 10 years ago, I researched at the Oshkosh Public Library, and I found the Arthur Young study, and I found the 1991 study, because one of the professors that was on that committee hired me to teach his night class so that he could be on that committee. I presented this to the board. There was no interest. And throughout the time and the effort to look at committees, one of the things you have to appreciate the fact is that we have a county board of 36 supervisors, and our committee system is set up for a large board. Whether it was the 42 members back in 1987, or it was the 38 members back in 1991. It's still a large board. Now, any meaningful study of committees would need a reduction in the county board. So if you were to come back, if you were to ask to cut the board in half to a size of 18, that's an appropriate time to take all these committees together and readjust them. But just to do it for the sake of the 36 supervisors, this has been working, at least for the 16 years I've been on the board, very adequately. The citizens are attended to. When there is a hot issue, we had 100 people at the legislative committee at Coughlin Center when the committee was discussing vaccines,
Yeah.
anti-vaxxers, there were 100 people that came from Milwaukee, from Madison, they came from all over.
Could I respond? So I hear what you're saying, Supervisor Eisen, and I respect your research. I agree with what you have to say. I understand the committees. I understand all of the committees that we have. This is just wanting to look at those amount of committees that we have and seeing if we could bring those down to fall under, to put more of those committees under less groups. And
Well, if you go back to the Wisconsin Counties Association video, in which there was a presentation back in December that you referred to,
Yeah.
you'd find that there were the two administrators that made their presentation.
right,
Their particular objective was span of control. They didn't like the idea that there were so many moving parts to the organization. They're hired. If we were to hire an administrator for Winnebago County, we'd have to pay him $175,000 because that's what those positions for a county our size are going for, and probably more.
so I'm looking at this from the county supervisor standpoint. I'm looking at it from my constituents. And what I learned through these studies, and if I may, I could pass these around.
I own copies of both of them.
Okay, so I would just, anybody who wants to look through this. What I learned is that from a supervisor standpoint, having less supervisors potentially, or having, or not, or having less committees doesn't necessarily, from what they've learned, does not necessarily hurt the constituents' ability to impact government. In fact, it can often allow for more citizen participation with a right sizing. I don't want to go on about, take up the time, but I am looking at it from the supervisor standpoint. I understand it can feel that it's maybe just too much staff involved, but I have come to conclude from what I have researched that it actually would save us time. It would give us the ability to focus in more on, it wouldn't decrease the amount of meetings that we would do either. When you look at some of that information, it would help us just to focus in. So we're not spread so thin, so meetings aren't as long. I think one of the things that stood out to me, this will be my final comment unless I need to answer questions, but the idea is we have an incredible amount of abilities in order to meet our constituents' needs and to bring what we have to the table. But we also have great staff that we've hired, not we, but are hired to do their job. And it's important for me to learn how to get out of the way as much as possible. So to work hand in hand with that, I don't know if that is true for anyone else, but I would like to see any kind of efficiency in government, and I just want to be part of the solution to that if that's needed at the end of the day.
Do the other supervisors have observations, thoughts, questions?
I do. I definitely see what you're trying to do here. And, for some reason, there are things that the Supervisor Powers and I agree on, and then there's some things that we don't agree on. And she just kind of went ahead and took the charge, stating that this was like some sort of active scaling back of committees. But I don't look at this. I'm looking at the resolution right now, and I don't see it as that at all. It's I do find it a little ironic that we're creating a committee, another committee, to possibly scale back other committees. So there's a bit of irony there. I mean, this committee, if we were to form it, if we were to vote on it, and if it gets ratified by the county board after it, if we decide to move forward with it today, they could come back and say that all the committees still need to exist, that it's still necessary to have these committees. There's a lot of committees too that, as I'm sure you've discovered, is that they're either federally mandated or state mandated. Safe Streets Committee is mandated by the state, and so it has to exist. So there's nothing that we can do there jurisdictionally. So, but then you get the something like a Diversity Affairs Commission. That's something that we created. So we have the ability to do something there. So I don't necessarily look at this as some sort of active, trying to scale back in committees. All it really is just an examination. Just taking a look at everything and say, do we have too many moving parts, or how do we need to or can we consolidate? And is consolidation a good idea? One possible thing here is, I'm just brainstorming here, but I mean, if I know that oftentimes, when you create a committee, it also does kind of, at that point, you have to have some sort of some sort of agenda item or some type of goal and that can slow things down too. One other possible idea too is kind of like, in the city of Neenah, they have committee of the wholes, where basically the committee gets together and just focuses on that one single thing. Which that is a perfect possibility where we can do too, where the whole county board comes in and takes a look at all of these things that you presented towards us, and to figure out what things need consolidating, or if nothing needs to be done. But again, this is just, all it does is that it's a review. The review can come back and be like, nope, everything's fine, and that's it. Everything's fine. It's just kind of an audit of everything here. So, so with that, I mean, I don't really have any objection to this resolution, because, like I said, all it is just kind of a review committee. But again, we are creating a separate committee for that.
And thank you for doing the legwork on this. It was really useful, very helpful to take a deep dive on something you're passionate about. And I think that it's good that you were able to work with Mr. Pollard in order to kind of put together the appropriate research material going forward. But the one concern that I have is that last year there was an attempt to reduce the size of the pool. And I understand this says just review the committee structure, but you can easily say that we should shrink the committee structure contingent upon shrinking the board as a whole. And therefore, our recommendation is that we launch a review into reviewing the size of the board as a whole. I can't support that. I like the size of the board as it is currently. I would not support it if it was the only number of members. I think we're unique in the fact that we have a pretty large board that is, very diverse in where it comes from and where their viewpoints and walks of life are. And I know that there's not a whole lot I can do here in saying that, are you guys not going to discuss a downscaling report, because there's, once this train leaves the station, it leaves the station. So I can support education, I can support exploration, but I don't want to see a proposal to come back that says, as a result, we think we should downscale the board as a whole as well. Contingent upon this.
I have to admit, I was originally not understanding the economy of issues. I hear exactly what everyone's saying. I think you cleared up a lot by your take. And I also understand Supervisor Flom's concern.
You'll have to.
I'm on the fence now. Because I had not considered a possible reduction in the board. And I don't know if I could support a reduction in the board either. I absolutely support examining every committee and the moving parts. I absolutely support that.
So is there a happy medium that we can come to?
My big fear is that we are and our peers are part-time employees of the county. We have responsibilities to our committee assignments. We have responsibilities to our jobs. We have responsibilities to meet as a county board. Now, if you want to set up a committee to study the committees, why don't you hire a consultant to do the legwork and the research work? Because that's what Arthur Young did. It was built upon subsequently. If you're locked in your mind to a county board of 36 supervisors, and I've resigned myself to that because frankly, one of the reasons I desired to be on Judiciary way back a decade ago was to put some input when it came time to have the census. But the politics of the municipalities within the county said 36 is the right size, according to them. But I can't conceive of going to these 40 or 50 or 60 committees that are listed on our website and having any meaningful analysis with a part-time board members doing that. You know, you want to study the committees. Go to UWO and go to their public administration department. Have them bring over an intern or have them bring over a professor who can sort it all out. It's much too mammoth a job to just kick the can back and forth.
Mr. Chair, if I might add, and Director Collard and I have worked in multiple counties, and the ad hoc idea has kind of worked in other counties because they get a cross section of the board and they do exactly what Supervisor Eisen just discussed. So this committee, I think you really have two policy decisions, points to make. First, you are the committee of jurisdiction over the county board rules. You could choose to figure out a way to do it in committee, perhaps request some resources. Or you could go down the ad hoc route with the resolution you have before you. I think that there are plenty of consultants out there. I wouldn't necessarily recommend UWO MPA, but there are WCA has staff that this is their expertise. UW Extension local government has staff that this is their expertise. And then the UW Extension, Winnebago County and other counties have facilitators that have gone through this process around the county. So for the committee today, I think your decision point is, I don't know that the resolution, if you're going to vote on a resolution based on what you think the preconterm outcome is, I don't know that that's a proper policy decision. But I think you guys can decide tonight, do you want to maybe workshop this more as a committee to figure out what are the options? We certainly have consultants and outsiders that would be more than willing to present, or do you recommend to the board that we do an ad hoc committee? And if that's your decision, but from the county executive's perspective, we will provide as much staff and expertise as we have in county for free to do this. The county executive is committed to whatever the county committee decides, staffing that, finding the research for you to do that.
I was going to say something. Can you?
I'm sorry, could you say it again?
No, I'm gonna say something, and then Supervisor Flom is going to make a motion. I see two big issues, not two issues, two big questions. The first question is it worth the time to look at this, at the committee structure and look at the efficiencies? That to me is the big question. Should we step back and say, are we doing things the right way today? Are there better ways to get this work done? Are there better ways to interact with each other? Right? And do we feel like that would benefit the county, the workers of the county, and the taxpayers of the county, those who we represent? That's the first question. Do we really think that there's a need there and that's something we should be looking at? We need to answer that question. The second question is, how about do we go doing that work? And I agree. I actually totally agree with Supervisor Eisen. This is a huge task, and we are all part-time people, and there's a lot of moving parts. And I've spent time on the professional side with very large companies, $15 billion companies. Part of that was figuring out processes. And I can appreciate all of the inner workings of the county government. I can't tell you what they all are, but I can appreciate them. And that the changes we make impact so many other things, like a domino effect. And we have to be very diligent in making sure that we've thought those things through as a part of that process. So I absolutely, I take what Supervisor Eisen is saying and absolutely agree with that. We have to be considerate of that. So for me, I see those two big issues or two big questions, and I think that's what we first, but before anything else, I think this committee needs to grapple with the question of, is it something that we should be looking at? And then we could figure out.
Mr. Chairman,
Yes,
can we ask the presenter, what's the need to do this?
we sure can. I was just about to get there. Thank you. And the second is figuring out the best pathway. So with that, tell us what that need is that we're trying to solve to.
In other words, the reason why we're doing it?
What's the need to do all of that? The county has been running this $165 million a year. The departments are operating. We transitioned from an old exec to a new exec. We transitioned from 36 old supervisors to 16 new supervisors and residual 20 old supervisors.
So I think
How many things are working?
so the need is just reflecting on what Chairman Stafford has mentioned, is just being able to look at the issue to make sure that we are as efficient as we can be, because it is a domino effect, and the way we run things affects so many other things. So I would also say the reason that I'm bringing this forward is because of the Wisconsin Counties Association information that I found to be very useful, very informative, as far as the video that I watched 2-3 times and studied it, took notes. It's I just want, I want to be a part of looking at it, and it doesn't have to be like tomorrow. This is just.
Well, I looked at that video too.
Okay.
And I know that the two administrators that were there, their whole philosophy was their span of control, that they were able to have a certain number of maybe 5 or 6 groups of departments, so that they didn't have to deal with 16 different departments.
I understand. I appreciate your input. I respect your take on things. You have a lot more experience than I do, but I don't think there's anything more I can present. Does anybody want to see the,
I personally have seen these
Okay.
already, so.
this is from Clerk Ertmer. She told me I needed to give them back to her, but like, if anybody wants them, I can get copies, so, okay, all right.
So with that,
Yes, in the interest of supervisor's time, in the interest of possibly removing any sort of preconceived biases and notions in a ad hoc committee, one of the things I'm concerned with is silos and areas of interest of the members of that subcommittee. One of the things that I would like to motion for is to an agenda item on next meeting for JPS to discuss commissioning a study on the structure by a third party.
I will second that.
okay, we have a second, any discussion on that motion? No, I'm sorry, it's just us.
Well, I want to ask a question so we can help you on that. Are you envisioning that perhaps we have an expert or somebody here, or how can staff support what you're requesting?
So I'm requesting that us as a committee of 5 decide whether or not we want to do this or hire a third party. And we can have a fully fledged out discussion item for the next meeting to say which route we want to go down as a committee,
Would this be as a discussion?
as a discussion item. Yes. And this would be tabled for tonight, and that we would come back and say which we want to do, an ad hoc committee or a third party study.
Signing us some homework.
And are you signing up to put some dimension behind what the third party study would look like? Sure. I'm just asking.
That's fine.
I'm just asking. Yeah. Because I don't want to leave and be like, okay, what are we gonna, how are we gonna action against that?
Right.
Doesn't have to be.
Well, did we ever resolve the need to do that?
I think that's what Jacob is.
That's what I'm trying. I'm trying to basically put together a discussion for the next meeting, saying which is the best route we should go down, like Ethan mentioned, saying we can go down the ad hoc committee item, which has its pros and cons. Go down the third party item, which also has its pros and cons.
The reason why I second that is because, I mean, this is essentially our job. You know, we have to consider all alternatives, and we do have to put in the work. So, this is part of the discussion. It doesn't sound like we're able to make a decision tonight. We just need to have some more research. So let's just put it as an agenda item for the next meeting, and then it's time for us to go to work.
And I would clarify, part of that discussion needs to be that first question that I brought up in terms of dimensioning the significance of it, because as we go and we talk to others, we're gonna have to sell this idea as this is why we're doing this versus just doing it because we want to. And I want to make sure that we're not putting the cart before the horse, right? And coming with a solution and not really identifying what the significance of the problem is. Okay, so there's a motion, but however, I want to make sure that Supervisor Eisen had a request for clarification. I want to make sure that we clarify.
Well, what you decided to do is to postpone any additional consideration of the recommendation until the next committee meeting, when we as 5 members would return here and with the assistance of Supervisor to determine whether there is a need to do it and how to do it.
Correct. Approach. The approach.
And I think that's the spirit of what I'm getting to. It's which route do we want to go down as a committee of 5? Because clearly we can't decide all the time.
We don't have all
Okay, well, how do we go forward with that without violating the open meetings law? Because, we're each thinking people and we each have ideas, and my idea is not any good unless I communicate it to Jacob and to you and all down the line.
Right, so actually on that note, I had asked that question to Corporation Counsel. And her response was, you can do that as an item, a discussion item within JPS, that we would just come to that meeting with our own ideas and have that discussion there. We can also establish a JPS workshop separate, where we would come together and it would just, that would be the only agenda item. And it would be considered not a meeting, but a workshop.
You know, that's not a bad idea, because it'll give you an opportunity to kick the can without having to impose upon, you know, anyone except a secretary to take minutes.
Right.
Although we have a secretary, so he can take minutes. But yeah, I would be amenable to that. If you would propose to refer this to a committee of the whole at a designated time, an hour, to discuss the need and approach to doing it.
Okay. So, okay. I'm going to maybe piggyback off of your motion to add that versus trying to.
I think a workshop is probably better because it doesn't, back to Supervisor asking comments, it basically doesn't box us into an agenda item without us violating the open meeting law.
Okay, so is it I'm gonna restate,
Go ahead.
and you let me know. Your motion is to establish a JPS workshop to identify the need and
The need and avenue to address the need of exploration of community restructuring.
okay, so that's the motion.
I second that.
Okay, second. Additional conversation on that. Okay, hold on, hold on. All right, so with that, all in favor, say aye. All opposed? That passes. So the next order will be, we have to identify a time, which I don't know procedure on this.
You do a monkey survey of some sort.
Okay.
Let's not keep up.
Thank you. Yes, we will do the monkey survey.
Survey month.
Yeah, I that's what he meant. We'll do some sort of survey. We'll get that. We'll get it. Okay. Thank you very much. Okay, then, okay, Supervisor Flom, there were two other items on this agenda for discussion. I'm going to give you the option of, I know that you were kind of on the fence if you wanted to bring this to this committee at this point.
I will, for the other item, so for item number,
So just give me 1 second. So I'm gonna, we're going to go to item 10.
yes,
Discussion resolution to provide for and add an advisory referendum on voting equity for the November 8th, 2022 general election in Winnebago County.
and for the interest of time for the supervisors and the remaining people here, could, unless if anyone else has an objection on this committee, number 11 be pulled for tonight.
Yes.
So that the supervisor, the interested party who is not sitting on this committee does not have the necessary items that we're going to go over now. So basically, this this item right here, what you have, this is not a final item. This is an unmarked resolution that is not in its final form. It is a draft. That's all it is. And I know it has not been cleared with corporate counsel. Corporate counsel had a couple questions about the other items here. I am just bringing this to you to have a very rough form of what things would look like. By no means is this final. I don't want it to be final. The reason I'm bringing it up today is because I want people's input. I want to know whether they think this is a good or bad idea. This was brought to my attention by a former colleague of mine in the state capitol, Judge Pandrick, who I used to work with in state capitol. I know that Mr. Hollenberger is also very familiar with Mr. Hendrick and now his new organization, Common Sense Wisconsin. So basically, there is an issue, and I think coronavirus has really brought this to fore, and we saw this before coronavirus as well, that there is no election uniformity within absentee balloting within the state of Wisconsin. There are certain municipalities that are able to staff absentee voting and in-person absentee voting within that 2-week time frame, given the amount of staff and the resources that they have. Right, so for example, Waukesha County can have absentee voting on the weekends because they can possibly have staff for it. I don't know for certain, but I do not think that we offer in-person absentee voting in Winnebago County on the weekends. Is that correct?
I don't know that answer.
Okay, I don't think we do.
My guess is there's might be a municipality or two that.
Okay. Basically, what this does, yes, sir.
Yeah.
Yes.
Point of order.
Yeah.
Could we ask the maker of this resolution to prepare a agenda item report?
Yes.
So that we members of the committee can see exactly what it is he's driving at.
Yeah.
And the sources that bring him to the conclusion that there's a need to have a referendum to pass on.
Right.
It has been my experience over the past decade and a half on the board that the board is never, or at least past boards have never been amenable to these advisory referendums.
Sure.
As a matter of fact, the big referendum, one of the big ones that was passed in Outagamie and maybe Waupaca County, never got any steam here in Winnebago County. And I don't know with the new members whether they would be amenable to go down the advisory referendum road, because typically there's expenses that are involved, which you'd have to involve the county clerk to find out. But if Jake, if you could bring this at the next meeting with an agenda item report.
Yes.
And have all the details of that, then I think it would be easier for us to comprehend
Yes.
what you're trying to pull out
Yes.
of this, which you probably copied from somebody.
Right.
somewhere.
So what I did is so basically I will provide a report for the next JPS meeting that will have that will be there. This has been in the very early stages of just kind of my thought process. I figured I would probably flag it for you guys. There will be an agenda item report next time. I am aware that
No, go ahead.
I am aware that this county has had some issues in the past with the idea of approving advisory referendums. And ultimately, it may not make it to that stage, but I just wanted to have a discussion about that. And if we feel that it's the right way for this county to go, then we'll bring it to the general board. Whether or not they agree, that's a separate question. Type A and C referendums, advisory referendums for the county clerk, she told me they cost roughly around $3,000. That would be 2/3 approval from the board in order to have that on the ballot. The deadline for that is August 30th to be passed by the county board and received at the clerk's office. Basically, what this is that, and this is from Common Sense Wisconsin, individual jurisdictions have used different standards about when they are going to be counting these absentee ballots. And essentially, the solution here would be the referendum would provide for a constitutional election uniformity clause. And essentially, that would take the politics out of that, and that would say, okay, within this 2-week window, this is when we are allowed to have these be received and when they're not allowed to be received. So basically, whether what side of the aisle you sit on, The entire idea is whether you live in Superior, Kenosha, Madison, Minocqua, Oshkosh, that the election procedures are the same. So that basically the Waukesha County office is open on Saturdays, or the Milwaukee County office is open on Saturdays. That's just kind of the brief item. I just wanted to run it by you and just kind of stick my toe in there. I will have an agenda item report for next time. And that's kind of all I have right now. Yes.
I just want to make sure if the other supervisors had any thoughts.
Yeah.
Oh, sure. Yeah, so, you know, when it comes to referendums like this, you know, they're advisory referendums.
Sure.
And, you know, you do have the option, I mean, obviously, you know, your deadline is August. You would have to go through committees. And even if the committees vote them down, you can still put them in front of the county board if you wanted to. I only say that because I did that myself. So, I think probably, you know, one other thing too, and in this particular case, I see what you're getting at here in regards to it just makes it, the whole idea is that it's supposed to be uniform. But my concern is that it does then take away localized power and bring it over to the state. There's a trade-off for everything. And so there's that whole thing of be careful what you ask for. You just might get it.
And I noticed that, you know, we have had that in the past with other items of very central, taking away some judicial discretion from judges and whatnot, and that has resulted in some gaps that have happened at places at the localities as well. So I see the pros and cons of it. This doesn't have to be approved for the fall election. This can be for the spring of 2023. It doesn't have to be, you know, this fall.
And, you know, this is just it's an advisory referendum. It doesn't actually affect
It
policy.
doesn't create a mandate.
Right.
That's basically the only agenda item I had. I'll have a more formalized discussion point at the next year.
Supervisor Hanson, any thoughts? No. Okay. I also think I love the concept. I think anything that we can do to create more consistency is better for the electorate. And I definitely see where Supervisor, well, actually, all the supervisors have expressed, especially Brian, in that we need to make sure that we're not tipping unfairly any power away from local authority and autonomy to the state. But I think that's something that we could easily do as we continue down this path as well. I think that's a great watch out, and thankfully we have time to make sure that we try to address that within this work. So
And the other thing is that, you know, making election procedures predictable for the electorate, knowing that, hey, when I go here, I'm not gonna, you know, when I go to vote, I always vote in person or early absentee. That's why. I want to make sure that's there and that it's, you know, I know that state law has to be there, but we've seen, with COVID especially, that things have kind of been given some leeway. Now, and that's the question, is that do we want to give more control to bureaucrats in Madison versus local control? I think that's the thing that we should really kind of dig into. But I appreciate the time, and then I will come back with a more formalized agenda item for the next go around. That's all I have, Mr. Chairman.
sounds good. Thank you very much. All righty. I think I can make a motion to adjourn. And we will be re-adjourning on June 13th at 6 p.m. All in favor, say aye. Aye. Opposed? Ayes pass it. Thank you very much.